Chapter 181, The Return of Yen Buhui. When Su Zimo arrived at the arena, it was already packed with a dense crowd. At the center of the stage, two young men stood, swords in hand. The one on the left wore a blue robe. His gaze was calm, but from his eyes shot forth an endless sword intent. His entire being was wrapped in that sword intent, unyielding and eternal, evoking the impression of a timeless, indestructible will. The young man on the right wore a white robe. He didn't exude any great aura, nor did he have a sharp sword presence about him. He looked more like an ordinary man. His robe was as white as snow, and a 3-foot-long sword hung at his waist. Su Zimo was slightly surprised when he saw the white-robed young man. "Isn't that Yen Buhui?" Little Gue exclaimed in disbelief. Yen Buhui had parted ways with Su Zimo earlier, saying he would enter the mortal world to seek insight into his sword path. At the time, Su Zimo thought he'd stay in the western region to train. He hadn't expected him to arrive all the way in the eastern continent. Though it had been a while, the aura around Yen Buhui now had a sense of returning to simplicity. He no longer displayed his most lethal sword energy outwardly, as he used to. As the two stood face to face in the arena, the crowd below was buzzing with chatter. "That white-robed guy doesn't look like much. He already seems overwhelmed by unbreaking sword Qin Feiming just from aura alone. You think just anyone can compare to Qin Feiming?" A few years ago, even the holy son of the Mo Imperial clan came to challenge him and left in utter defeat. "Mo Imperial clan?" someone unfamiliar asked. "The one in the eastern continent's core region, the clan of the Formation Emperor," came the reply. "Would the Mo Imperial clan really just sit back after their holy son was beaten?" another asked. "Do you know where Qin Feiming comes from?" someone chuckled. "He's from Heaven Ender." Just those two simple words, Heaven Ender, were enough to make the entire crowd fall silent. One sect, 3 emperors, a legacy like a blade hanging over the heads of all. Founded by the Grand Emperor Tianye, later strengthened by the Grand Emperor Ji Qi and the Fierce Emperor, Heaven Ender wasn't a traditional sect or clan. It functioned more like a massive intelligence organization. They collected information on all rare people and artifacts in the world and sold it to those who needed it. Even the world's rarest treasures list and the Windcloud rankings were compiled by them. Their main headquarters was in the Middle Continent, with branches spread across the other 4. At the center of the arena, Qin Feiming's sharp gaze remained fixed on Yen Buhui. He said calmly, "Defeat me, and you'll earn the eternal Sword God's inheritance." "I don't care for the Sword God's inheritance." Yen Buhui smiled gently. "I just enjoy fighting other swordsmen." Qin Feiming's eyes narrowed slightly. His blue robe fluttered as he struck out with his sword. A sudden, furious blade of light tore down from the heavens, seemingly slicing the world in two. Yen Buhui looked up slightly, and in that moment, he became like a drawn sword himself. He raised his right hand, using it as a sword, and gently slashed through the air. The sword light falling from the sky shattered instantly, dispersing into nothingness. "I first touched a sword at age 3, Yen Buhui said calmly, eyes focused on Qin Feiming. "When I was 7, someone very important to me left this world." A soft breeze stirred, blowing Yen Buhui's long hair into disarray. He looked down at the sword in his hand and muttered, "From then on, this sword became my only companion." As a crisp clang echoed, countless sword lights soared into the sky, chaotic and fierce. At 16, I entered the true martial sacred ground and received my ancestors' inheritance the same year. Drawing his sword, he pointed it at Qin Feiming. "Since then, I've wandered the martial world, refining my sword path through life. I came all the way from the western region to primordial ancient city. I've seen bandits in the desert tribes ravage villages. I drew my sword then, for justice. I've seen rogue cultivators in the mercenary halls fight to the death over a single technique scroll. I understood then, behind pitiful desperation lies a harsh truth. Weakness is a sin. I've seen deceit within sects, and innocent people die, fathers shielding their children with their backs. Long ago, I told myself I would walk the emotionless sword path. But after all I've seen, I've come to understand. Humans are not wood or stone. How can we be without emotion? I can't escape my own desires and emotions. As he finished speaking, Yen Buhui swung his sword. Endless sword shadows roared through the air, tearing through the sky, sweeping across half the heavens with unstoppable force. His sword aura crashed down, and Qin Feiming's eyes sharpened. He raised his sword. With a shout, his sword erupted with a brilliant radiance. That sword light was wrapped in strands of gray mist, giving off a feeling of eternity, resilience, and indestructibility. That's Qin Feiming's undying sword intent, someone below murmured. They say it's a derivative understanding he gained from the eternal sword god's eternal sword intent. As the gray sword intent surged skyward, the two brilliant sword lights clashed. The sky roared with wind and clouds. Blade auras surged across the heavens in waves. A massive mushroom cloud bloomed high in the sky. Even the void itself seemed to tremble. Ripples shook through the air. A thunderous boom rang in everyone's ears. The blinding lights of the clash gradually dimmed. The crowd stared at the battlefield in awe. Despite the intensity of the battle, the arena, framed by two towering ox horns, remained untouched. It had borne the weight of two eras and survived the apocalyptic disasters of the Desolate Age. And it still stood unshaken. In the arena, the two men stood face to face. The sword waves they created whipped their robes and hair into a constant fluttering storm. "You're impressive," Qin Feiming said slowly after a long silence. Then, crack! His sword broke in half. His sword! It broke! Someone whispered in disbelief. "Swords, too, have feelings," Yen Buhui replied calmly. At that moment, all four of his meridian gates were open, his aura belonging fully to the desolate meridian realm. His gaze was as sharp as his sword. He was the sword. "You win," Qin Feiming said with effort. His words carried a trace of sadness and relief.
No.
"Get a new sword. Let's fight again." Yen Buhui shook his head. "I was still a step behind," Qin Feiming replied. "Even if we fought 10,000 more times, the result would be the same. I became too fixated on the surface meaning of the words undying sword intent. You win. You've earned the right to receive my master's true inheritance." Even then, despite the inheritance of the sword god being within his grasp, Yen Buhui's expression remained calm from beginning to end. Chapter 182, The Desolate Tavern. Yen Buhui turned his head and swept a calm glance across the crowd. Then, by chance, he spotted Su Zimo standing below, and instantly froze. "If you're done here, come with me," Qin Feiming said flatly. "Go where?" Yen Buhui asked. "To meet my master. I never go back on my word," Qin Feiming replied. "Let's talk later." Yen Buhui shook his head and walked down from the arena, heading directly towards Su Zimo. "Long time no see," he said. His gaze locked onto Su Zimo. He still remembered the blade at South Goose Mountain, the day he had received the inheritance of a sword god and believed himself invincible. But Su Zimo had defeated him with a single slash, leaving behind words he could never forget. "Work harder. Otherwise, you're not even qualified to chase my shadow." "Drink with me?" Su Zimo asked with a smile. Yen Buhui nodded. As the two walked off, Qin Feiming hurried after them. "Where are you going?" "I'll go for the eternal sword god's inheritance when the time feels right," Yen Buhui said, shaking his head. "No way," Qin Feiming protested. "I've waited 5 years here for someone worthy. You have to come with me." "Why don't you inherit it yourself?" Little Gue asked curiously. "I'm not qualified," Qin Feiming replied after a pause, then looked up and added calmly. "Go see it," Su Zimo said with a smile, turning to Yen Buhui. "Once you've accepted the inheritance, you can go train on your own. Or come find me at the Bailey Imperial clan." Yen Buhui nodded, then asked in confusion, "How did you know I was suited for the eternal sword god's inheritance?" "It's your sword heart. You already know your path," Qin Feiming replied concisely. As the two walked away, Su Zimo turned to little Gue with a grin and said, "The real show's about to begin. Don't get too nervous." Little Gue nodded and asked, "Senior brother, are they really from the ancient horrors of long ago?" "Before the desolate era, more or less," Su Zimo chuckled. "But after the imperial era, they gradually faded. Let's see how much courage they still have." Blue Sky Alley, perhaps the most well-preserved ancient street in all of primordial ancient city. During the Supreme Terror, nearly the entire city had been destroyed, but this narrow alley survived by sheer luck. Even when the city was rebuilt, not a single brick or tile of this alley was touched. The deep, quiet alley radiated peace. Compared to the bustling streets of the city, it felt like a separate realm, a space isolated from both time and place. Su Zimo stood at the entrance to Blue Sky Alley and slowly closed his eyes. A gentle wind brushed past. Back when the primordial chaos bead had carried him through the river of time, he had witnessed every major event since the beginning of this era. That included the great battle that once ravaged primordial ancient city. Now standing at the alley's mouth, he could feel the weight of the millions of years of history bearing down on him, like ancient memories sighing in the air. He felt as though he had returned to that catastrophic war. With little Gue in tow, Su Zimo slowly entered the alley. As soon as they stepped in, little Gue produced a folding fan from who knows where. Dressed in a purple robe, fan in hand, hair flowing freely and tied in a topknot, he looked every bit the image of a graceful young noble. Anyone would be compelled to praise. What a refined gentleman. 500 meters in, they saw a tavern off to the side. For large characters greeted them, "Desolate Tavern." The tavern's doors were made of dragon resin wood, a rare material found only where dragons once dwelled. Since the Imperial era, after Sky Shroud War gods single-handedly slaughtered the dragon race at Nether Dragon Ravine, this type of wood had vanished. The ancient signboard looked aged and battered, its wood rotting, but the characters were still clear. Inside, the tavern's decor was old-fashioned. It was small, with only 6 tables. Behind the front counter sat an old man, slumped over in deep sleep. The place was peaceful, with the faint aroma of wine in the air. "Brother Su, who would have thought we'd meet again in such an ancient city?" little Gue said with a smile. "Brother Zhang, you're too polite," Su Zimo replied with a chuckle. "Back in the Grand Myriad Mountains, I was truly impressed by your presence. Don't be so modest, Brother Su. Tonight, let's drink until we drop." Little Gue laughed. He strode to the counter and knocked on the table hard. The old man stirred, lifting his head slightly. His murky eyes glanced at little Gue before he slumped back down to sleep. "Hey, you've got customers. Aren't you going to serve us?" Little Gue frowned. The old man lifted his head again, and in that instant, his gaze seemed to pierce through the void and land directly on little Gue. Little Gue instantly felt suffocated, like he'd just been targeted by something terrifying. "The wine's on that shelf over there," the old man said lazily. "Take whatever you want. Just don't disturb this old man's sleep." Little Gue turned to look and saw a black wooden cabinet built into the wall. It was filled with jars of wine, each labeled with red slips describing its name and origin. He walked up with great interest and began examining them. 1,000-year red wine, brewed with water from the spring of life, and fermented using a God Meridian realm beast, the Nether Serpent. Flavor: slightly bitter. Effects: phenomenal healing. If you still draw breath, it can raise the dead and regrow bones. Price: 1 primordial beast's cub. Source: Spring Spirit Wine. Made from the core root of a 10,000-year-old snow lotus from the Tian Shan Mountains, blended with 7 rare spiritual herbs. Flavor: sweet, calming. Effects: great assistance in breaking into the 6th meridian of the Emperor Meridian realm. Price: 1 universe-grade spiritual herb. Little Gue stared at the wine descriptions, stunned. Any one of these jars could cause an uproar if released to the public. Yet here they were, boldly displayed on a shelf like they were nothing special. He composed himself, cleared his throat, and said loudly, "Shopkeeper, your wine selection's not all that. It's either too sweet or too bitter. Don't you have anything stronger? Give me the best you've got." Hearing that, the old man cracked open an eye and muttered, "The best wine? I'm afraid you can't afford it." Chapter 183, Life is like a play. "Old man, don't look down on me. Do you even know who I am?" Little Gue snorted proudly. "I don't. And I don't need to," the old man replied calmly. With a casual wave of his hands, the air around them rippled as boundless spirit force surged. A small spatial portal opened before them. The old man reached into it and pulled out a wine jar that was completely black. Then the portal closed, and everything returned to normal. "Blazing Flame Burnthroat Wine," the old man said as he placed the jar on the table. "This was personally brewed by the Flame Emperor back in the day. The spice level is unbearable for most. Just one sip could burn anyone below the Imperial Meridian realm to ashes. It has no practical use, except that it contains the Flame Emperor's understanding and insights into the Tao realm. Price: any one of the battle physique pearls from the 100 battle physiques." Upon hearing that, Little Gue was silent for a moment. Then he forced a dry laugh and said, "Well, if anyone below the Imperial Meridian realm can't drink it, I'll have to pass." After that, he walked to the wine shelf and picked the cheapest jar available. All the wine here was exchanged for rare items, and even the cheapest one was the only one that could be bought with spirit crystals. Even so, it cost over 10,000 spirit crystals, a price far beyond the reach of commoners. As Little Gue sat down at a table with his jar of wine, the old man said nothing. He simply put away the rare wine and slumped back over the counter to sleep. "Come on, Brother Sue. Tonight we drink till we drop." Little Gue laughed, holding up 2 wine bowls. The two sat across from each other, downing the strong liquor. The fiery wine burned their chests but left their bodies warm and relaxed, their meridians and bones tingling with heat. "This is good stuff," Suzimo chuckled. Half the jar disappeared in an instant. Faces flushed, they were well into their cups, and spirits ran high. Suzimo pointed out the window and shouted. In the past, Grand Emperor Jinwu opened the Imperial Era. Grand Empress Hongtian reigned over entire epochs. Some stood atop the heavens and shouted, "Heaven's will is mine alone." Some swung a sword and cleaved a canyon, turning to see the world split behind them. Some stood alone and brought down entire races. Throughout history, so many heroes, so many epic tales and legends, all eventually lost to the fading of time. Yet the river of life never stops flowing. The fire of existence passes on through generations. The old era is bound to fade. Countless geniuses will rise and fall, but someone, someday, will usher in a new glory. It's been over 1,000 years since the mortal emperor ascended. Brother Zhang, tell me, in this era, who can be called a hero? Who is worthy of destiny's favor? Who can lead the arrival of a new age? Hearing this, Little Gue smiled and downed his bowl of wine in one gulp. In the western region, there's the Divine Sun's sacred ground, where a young man named Shenyuan Shintian was born with one of the 100 battle physiques, the Golden Emperor physique. Backed by an imperial lineage, could he be a hero? A loser from the grand tournament. Not worth mentioning, Suzimo said with a shake of his head. I heard in the Eastern Continent's core, the Dan Imperial clan, where the Alchemy Emperor once reigned, has a youth who inherited the Heavenly Star 100 physique. They say his alchemy is as easy as frying beans. Could he be a hero? Overhyped? Suzimo said again, shaking his head. There's one named Hua Qianxiu, a master of brush and ink. With one stroke of his wolf hair brush, he can paint all things. They say his life is a splash of ink, seeking the Tao through human nature. Hero material. He can be called a genius, but a hero? Still far, Suzimo said. I've never been to the distant middle continent either, but as for the eastern continent, I truly can't say who qualifies as a hero, Little Gue replied, shaking his head. A true hero, Suzimo said with a grin, should possess great ambition, a mind to encompass the universe, and a heart to swallow the heavens. Then who qualifies as a hero? Little Gue asked, puzzled. Su Zimo pointed to himself, then to Little Gue, and declared loudly, "Today, the only heroes under heaven are you and I, Brother Zhang." "How do you mean?" Little Gue blinked, intrigued. "I may have been born ordinary, but I've never submitted to anyone. I rose from a small village, all my achievements, earned with my own hands," Su Zimo proclaimed. "As for you, Brother Zhang, you were born with the Azure Cloud Battle Physique, ranked 72nd among the 100 battle physiques. Your future is limitless. There is a place for you in this era's battle for the heaven's will." "Well said." Little Gue slapped the table, then downed several more bowls of wine. His head was starting to spin. He shouted, "A true man, born in troubled times, should wield a 3-foot sword and achieve immortal glory. My goals are still unfulfilled. How can I let others outshine me?" As he finished, he pulled a glowing orb from his pocket. It was jade green, pulsing with immense energy. As it floated in midair, waves of energy rippled through the room. At that moment, the old man at the counter snapped awake, staring coldly at the orb. "Brother Su, I won't lie to you," Little Gue said, his drunken voice slurred. "This is the Azure Cloud Battle Physique Pearl. Once I break into the true Meridian realm, I'll fuse with this. Not only will I fully awaken the battle physique, I'll also use the power of the pearl to break into the Paragon Meridian realm. You should put it away. Walls have ears," Su Zimo quickly warned. "It's fine. Nobody comes to this tavern anyway," Little Gue said with a hiccup. "Let me tell you something else. Not only do I have the Azure Cloud Battle Physique, I even know where the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique, ranked 3rd among the 100 battle physiques, is located." He said this while stowing the pearl back into his pocket. They went to pour more wine, but the jar was empty. "Buzzkill," Little Gue muttered. "This place is great, but the wine's too damn expensive. Let's find somewhere else. Tonight we drink until dawn." "Sure," Su Zimo nodded. After paying, the two of them stumbled out, leaning on each other for balance. The old man watched them leave, his gaze deep and unreadable. Once they were outside, Little Gue let out a long sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. "Senior brother, that old man is definitely not normal," he said. "Just one look from him, and I swear the blood in my body nearly froze." "The bait has been set," Su Zimo said with a smirk. "Azure Cloud Battle Physique, and the 3rd-ranked Physique too. Let's see if the fish takes the hook. As for that old man, of course he's not normal. Even after suffering a massive defeat during the Great Cataclysm, those people still have power not inferior to any imperial lineage." Chapter 184, Lord of Nihility. After leaving Blue Sky Alley, Little Gue asked, "Senior brother, what now?" "Find an inn," Su Zimo smiled. "Drink until we drop." The primordial heartlands are divided into 5 continents, and these continents are not connected. Between them lies the endless heavenly sea, an ocean so vast that many say 70% of the world is water, while only 30% is land. Scattered among this endless ocean are countless floating islands, in addition to the 5 massive continents. A blanket of white mist concealed a portion of the endless heavenly sea. For martial artists traveling between the eastern and middle continents, this misted region is a known forbidden zone. Once inside, all 6 senses are sealed. Some who enter the mist might, with great luck, stumble their way back out. But others, they become permanently lost. Even Empyrean Meridian realm experts are not exempt from death in the fog. Beyond the thick veil of mist stood a towering immortal mountain, vast and majestic. It wasn't just the mist that shielded it. Around the mountain was a layer of transparent barrier. The peak stretched into the clouds, its top unseen. Within echoed the chant of Tao, while cranes soared freely into the skies. The mountain stood tall and mysterious, so monumental that a single glimpse was said to etch its image into one's soul forever. But thanks to the mist, no one had seen it fully. It simply existed in silence, as if it had always been part of heaven and earth. Jiang Macho awoke from unconsciousness, disoriented. He found himself in a simple thatched hut, sunlight streaming in through a small window. The air was filled with a strong herbal aroma. He tried to recall what happened but could remember nothing, only that he had suddenly collapsed. He stepped off the bed. Surprisingly, his body felt completely fine. Opening the wooden door, blinding sunlight poured in, and what he saw left him frozen in place. Deer with rainbow-colored antlers galloped across lush grass. Brilliantly colored birds soared above him. Before his eyes, flowers and trees bloomed in a kaleidoscope of colors. It was as if the whole world had been painted in radiant hues. An old man in a green robe moved among the blossoms, watering them slowly and calmly with a watering can. "You're awake? Sleep well?" the old man asked with a warm smile. "Where am I?" Jiang Macho asked cautiously. "This place? It has no name. Some call it the Immortal Mountain, others call it the Forbidden Land," the elder said with a chuckle. "If you want specifics, it's located on a nameless island between the eastern and middle continents, deep within the endless heavenly sea. Who are you? Why am I here?" Jiang Macho pressed further. "My name? It's been so long that I've forgotten. All things in this world eventually return to nothing. Born with nothing, die with nothing. Just call me the Lord of Nihility," the old man replied kindly. "I saved your life, so I brought you here." "You saved me? Who was trying to kill me?" Jiang Macho asked, puzzled. "We'll talk about that later," the elder said with a smile. "No need to worry. I have no ill will toward you. But before I tell you more, I need to ask you something very important." "Go ahead," Jiang Macho nodded. "If one day this world faces destruction, would you be willing to become its savior?" the old man asked, looking directly into his eyes. "The world destroyed? Savior?" Jiang Macho frowned. "What are you talking about? Just answer yes or no?" the elder of Nihility repeated. "No interest." Jiang Macho shook his head. "If the sky falls, there are taller people to hold it up. I'm just a meridian-forging realm nobody. What's it got to do with me? You don't want to be a hero? A savior?" the elder pressed. "No," Jiang Macho answered flatly. "Think about it, if you save the world, you'll be revered by countless people. Your name and deeds will be remembered forever," the old man said softly. "What's your point?" Jiang Macho frowned. "If you become the savior, even your parents would be proud dash." Before the elder could finish, Jiang Macho cut him off. "I'll say it again. I have no interest in being a savior. I don't even have parents anymore. What I want, what I live for, is to one day destroy the supreme primal sacred ground. To make those who deserve punishment pay for their sins." The Lord of Nihility was silent for a long time. Then he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Perhaps I can help you." Jiang Macho turned to look at him in surprise. "Become my disciple. I'll teach you everything I've learned in my lifetime," the elder said calmly. "I only ask for one thing. After you've taken your revenge, if, one day, this world truly stands on the brink of annihilation, you must step forward without hesitation and stop it. As long as I can have revenge, I'll agree to anything." Jiang Macho nodded eagerly. "No, you still don't understand." The elder shook his head. "This is a sacred duty. You must accept it willingly, not out of obligation or revenge. Maybe you don't get it now, but if that day really comes, you'll understand." Jiang Macho looked puzzled. He could barely grasp what the elder meant. "Come," the elder sighed. Spirit force surged from his body. With a wave of his hand, a boundless vortex appeared before them. He led Jiang Macho into it. The sky was blood red, the earth covered in deep cracks. There was no sun in the sky, only darkness cloaking everything. Below, creatures, human or beast, were like ants in a cage, living miserably and without dignity. Torrents raged. Volcanoes erupted. In the sky, lightning and chaos twisted through the heavens, enveloping the world in an apocalyptic gloom. And above it all, a lone figure stood in the sky. His gaze was calm, indifferent, overlooking a shattered world. He stood alone, high above, coldly watching all living beings below. Chapter 185, Infinite Immortal Mountain. Infinite baleful energy surged around the man. In the space where he stood, time and space itself shattered and froze. Explosions boomed across the world as if the fabric of reality were crumbling. Below, living beings fled like headless ants. The man looked down at them all, a mocking smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. With a casual lift of his hand, the demonic aura around him swirled, and a massive continent was instantly crushed and sunk into the sea. To this man, the entire world was merely a toy. All living creatures were no more than insignificant ants in his eyes. Blood rain poured from the skies. Suffering covered the land. All of creation whimpered and trembled under the man's oppressive presence. Someone sprinted past Jiang Macho, and he instinctively tried to grab them, only to find that his hand passed through their body. They weren't in the same space at all. "This is merely a recorded image," the Lord of Nihility sighed. "More accurately, this scene happened a very, very long time ago." Hearing this, Jiang Macho fell silent and gazed at the devastated world. The land was ravaged and bloody. The man above treated the world like a game. He held the power of life and death over all beings. Everything rose and fell at the whim of his emotions. "Bastard!" A man crawled from a pool of blood, roaring at the sky in despair. Men, women, the elderly, children, none were spared. They became a mountain of corpses beneath the demon's feet. Life was meaningless, and this carnage lasted for a long time. Eventually, in the face of extinction, the last survivors of the continent united to form the alliance against the demon sovereign. This battle raged on for 10,000 years. After countless near-death struggles, they finally sealed the demon sovereign. But after the sealing, greed and conflict erupted among those who had saved the world. They quarreled over glory, territory, and power, and the alliance broke apart. Those former heroes who had sealed the demon sovereign began to war among themselves. After the cataclysmic war against the demon sovereign, the world was already on the brink of collapse. Now new conflicts erupted, and the world simply couldn't take any more. It was destroyed. Heaven and earth reshuffled. The old era perished, and a new epoch began to form. When the karmic cycle in the illusion finished playing out, Jiang Macho's consciousness returned to the real world. "Why did you show me that?" Jiang Macho asked, puzzled. "Didn't it already end?" "No," the Lord of Nihility replied. "The demon sovereign isn't dead. That disaster will happen again." "You want me to kill the demon sovereign?" Jiang asked. "Not alone. You'll be one part of a larger plan," said the elder. "Why me?" Jiang narrowed his eyes. "I sensed the awakening of the Scarlet Flame Imperial Physique. Anyone who possesses it has the qualifications," the elder replied calmly. Jiang Macho was silent for a moment. "Where is the demon sovereign now?" he asked. "He hasn't emerged yet," the elder said. "This is just preparation. When that day arrives, you'll have to act." "Then why not find and kill him now before he grows stronger?" Jiang asked, frowning. "I already know who he is," the Lord of Nihility sighed. "But I can't act, nor can I tell you. These are the rules and I cannot break them. One day you'll understand." Jiang fell silent again, lost in thought. "I know this is a heavy burden for you," the Lord of Nihility said gently. "Take your time to think it over." Jiang nodded slowly and turned to walk back into the thatched hut. The Lord of Nihility watched him go, then looked up at the azure sky, murmuring, "The demon sovereign descends, and heaven bleeds. Yet vast heavens, do you care for the hearts of men?" He turned away, stepping toward the base of the immortal mountain. With a single step, spirit force surged, and his figure disappeared into the white mist. At the base of the immortal mountain, the terrain was steep, the cliffs sheer. Aside from the boundless ocean, this mountain was the only feature here. Though majestic and awe-inspiring, even the grand mountain became mundane when stared at too long. Before a massive boulder at the foot of the mountain, a man sat cross-legged. His long hair was now snow-white. His gaze was deep, meditative, and he remained perfectly still in meditation. The space before him began to ripple. The Lord of Nihility appeared with a step through the void. The man frowned slightly, glanced at him, then closed his eyes again. "I know you hold resentment," the elder said with a chuckle. "If you want to leave this place, now you have a chance." The man slowly opened his eyes. His gaze erupted with overwhelming spear intent, staring directly at the elder. After a long silence, he asked, "What's the price?" "Leave the infinite immortal mountain and find someone for me," said the elder. "Who?" "The inheritor of the second battle physique." The man was stunned. "The second battle physique?" he echoed, then asked, "Where do I look?" "I don't know, but you have 100 years. If you haven't found them by then, you'll be imprisoned here forever." With that, the Lord of Nihility vanished. The man stared into the vast void, lost in thought. He had been trapped at the base of the infinite immortal mountain for a century. He still remembered when he was full of youthful ambition. Though a rogue cultivator, he had gained some fame on the Middle Continent. Then he heard about the infinite immortal mountain, one of the 10 forbidden grounds, hidden within the infinite sea. It was said to be perilous, but home to immortals. If one could gain their favor, the future would be limitless. Knowing how difficult the rogue path was, he gambled everything on that one chance and entered the mountain. Unfortunately, reality was cruel. He saw the mountain and he saw the immortals, but failed to earn their recognition. No matter how much he begged, it was useless. As a trespasser of the immortal mountain, he was imprisoned at its foot, and 100 years passed in the blink of an eye. Now, a path opened in the mist before him. He stepped into the air, Imperial Meridian realm power roaring around him. He moved forward, further and further away from the infinite immortal mountain. Chapter 186 Moon Queen Pavilion. In primordial ancient city, Su Zimo and Little Gue found an inn and sat in a familiar windowside spot. They ordered some food and wine and began eating. "Senior brother, when are we leaving the city?" Little Gue asked curiously. "In a couple of days. Leaving too soon would look too suspicious," Su Zimo replied. "You can just enjoy yourself in the city for now." Little Gue nodded. "So where are we heading after this?" "To the Bailey Imperial clan," Su Zimo said flatly. "They still owe me a trip into the Heaven Genesis microcosm." "Isn't that a bit risky?" Little Gue asked nervously. "That Bailey Shao hates you to the core." "Don't worry. They don't have the guts," Su Zimo replied, shaking his head. After their meal, the two rented rooms at the inn. Su Zimo returned to his room, while Little Gue went off to wander the city. Inside his room, Su Zimo sat cross-legged. The aura of a peak paragon meridian realm cultivator surrounded him, already at the breaking point. The spirit force within him roared like a dragon, vast and powerful. In his true fate world, it was night. The river of fate hung upside down in the void, while the primordial chaos bead sat at the very center, suppressing the world. Floating nearby was the creature he had once encountered deep within Nether Dragon Ravine, the one known as Supreme Netherglow. On the other side of the true fate world, the subaltar of the pure moon altar had been imprinted into the world and had now grown several times larger. It constantly purified the turbid air of the true fate world, making it appear brighter and more pristine. The power of the true fate world steadily nourished Su Zimo's body, stronger than any other energy he had encountered before. Once the black gold energy was fully fused and the true fate world perfected, this power would evolve into the power of creation. He spent the entire day channeling this energy, tempering his bones, tendons, and flesh. Strangely, Su Zimo began to feel a deepening pull, a sense of being summoned. When he closed his eyes, disjointed visions would flash in his mind. As dusk fell and night crept in, Little Gue still hadn't returned. Su Zimo furrowed his brow. He instinctively felt something was wrong. But logically speaking, such a being wouldn't dare act within the city, not after the catastrophe they had once caused, which had led to opposition from all races. As Su Zimo pondered, the door to his room was suddenly kicked open. A young servant in a green robe walked in. "What is it?" Su Zimo asked, frowning. "You Su Zimo?" the servant asked casually. After Su Zimo nodded, the servant said arrogantly, "My young master says if you want to save your companion, come to Moon Queen Pavilion." He turned to leave, but Su Zimo called him back. "What?" the servant asked, puzzled. "Nothing, just wanted to teach you some manners," Su Zimo said with a smile. He grabbed the servant by the neck, and without giving him a chance to resist, threw him straight out the window. "Moon Queen Pavilion," Su Zimo muttered, then left the inn. Upon asking around, he found out Moon Queen Pavilion was a brothel. Thinking of little Gue, Su Zimo shook his head. "So even you, with those thick brows and big eyes, went to that kind of place." Inside Moon Queen Pavilion, little Gue was tied to a pillar in the main hall. Two burly men stood guard beside him. Everyone entering the brothel could see his pitiful state. "What happened to that guy?" someone asked in a low voice. "What else?" "He pissed off young Master Yi." A local chuckled. "Must be an out-of-towner. Doesn't know how things work here. Tried to compete with young Master Yi for a girl. What an idiot." Hearing this, a few others gave little Gue a pitying look and walked away. Unlike other body brothels, Moon Queen Pavilion had a quiet and elegant atmosphere. Everyone in Primordial Ancient City knew that the girls here were talented in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. To meet one, you needed not only spirit crystals but also their approval. Even if you were rich, if the girl didn't like you, you got nothing. Humans are creatures of contradiction. The more unattainable something is, the more they desire it. Which is why Moon Queen Pavilion was always buzzing with visitors. Su Zimo walked into the hall and immediately saw little Gue tied to the pillar. "What's going on?" Su Zimo walked over, amused. Little Gue's face was red with anger. "Some useless brat thinks he's somebody just because he's got lackeys," he growled. Just then, a round of applause echoed from nearby. Su Zimo turned to see a group of people exiting a private room. At their center was a pale-faced youth in a white robe, arms draped over two gorgeous dancers. He moved with wobbly steps, clearly someone who'd overindulged in debauchery. "Are you his master?" The youth looked at Su Zimo, smiling. "What do you want?" Su Zimo asked. "Nothing much. If you want to save him, offer me something satisfactory. Otherwise, you'll both stay here tonight," the youth said with a smirk. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and slowly drew his sword. Shadow Tyrant. His overwhelming aura surged out. His meridian gates opened one by one. The youth's party clearly peaked at the desolate Meridian realm. They were no match for Su Zimo. "Brother, hold on," a voice called from outside the pavilion. A handsome young man in a purple robe strode in. Su Zimo turned, frowning at him. "Allow me to introduce myself," the man said with a smile. "My name is Yi Failing, and this dash," he gestured toward the pale youth, "is my younger brother, Yi Lingtian." Seeing Su Zimo's confusion, Yi Failing stepped forward and drew his sword. With one clean strike, he cut the ropes binding little Gue. "He's young and ignorant," Yi Failing said respectfully. "If he's offended either of you, I sincerely apologize on his behalf." "I don't need your help," Yi Lingtian snapped. "You and father are always disappointed in me. Fine. I'll just keep partying and wasting away out here." Then he turned to shout, "This whole Moon Queen Pavilion is mine tonight. Bring out all the girls." Chapter 187, Phantom Cloud Steps. "Second brother, you?" Yi Failing began, hearing Yi Lingtian's words, but in the end, he simply shook his head helplessly. Everyone else in the hall heard Yi Lingtian's declaration, yet no one dared speak out, even though they all shared the same thought. If this guy weren't the second young master of the Yi clan, he would have been killed hundreds of times by now. Mention the Yi clan, and you were referring to one of the most powerful and renowned families in Primordial Ancient City. Although the city was full of hidden talents, who knew if the vendor on the corner might not be a reclusive expert tired of worldly struggles? Openly, the Yi clan absolutely held dominance. They were among the first to help rebuild the ancient city. The Yi clan's ancestors were involved in that effort. Since the city's reconstruction, the Yi clan had been rooted there, and as 10,000 years passed, those early builders had aged, died, and vanished into history. Only the Yi clan had walked the thorny path of time, surviving and thriving. Although not an imperial lineage, their strength far surpassed that of many first-rate sects. Yi Feiling turned to Su Zimo and said sincerely, "Brother, I'm truly sorry for what happened today. If you have any requests, please let me know. I'll do my best to fulfill them." "No need." Su Zimo shook his head. The onlookers in the hall whispered among themselves. The Yi clan head is practically a local lord of primordial ancient city. How can his two sons be so different? Right? The elder son is humble, well-mannered, and highly capable. He'll definitely lead the Yi clan to glory. But the second son? Not only is his cultivation ruined, but he also spends his days bullying the weak and frequenting brothels. A complete degenerate. Yi Feiling caught some of these whispers. He smirked as he watched Yi Lingtian disappear into a room with a gaggle of girls. His expression deepened, and he sneered quietly, "Good little brother, keep acting like this. Don't disappoint your big brother. When I take over as patriarch, I'll be sure to keep you clothed and fed." Inside the room, Yi Lingtian sat beside a table, surrounded by courtesans. Just as the door closed, a cool voice came from the corner. A woman in a blue dress, wearing light makeup, stepped out from the shadows. "Yuner." Yi Lingtian's mischievous expression vanished the moment he saw her. There wasn't just one door in the room. A hidden entrance lay in the corner. As the courtesans filed out through the secret door, only Yi Lingtian and the woman remained. "Brother Lingtian, are you all right?" Gu Yun asked with concern. "What could be wrong?" Yi Lingtian chuckled and looked toward the door. "That perfect big brother of mine really thinks I've given up. But if I didn't act like this, how would I have survived until now?" He sighed deeply, then said, "We're half-brothers. His mother is from a great clan of the northern desert. My mother? Just an ordinary woman. His mother helped him win over most of the clan's elders. If I posed even a slight threat to his claim as heir, he would crush me in an instant. So tell me, what choice do I have but to play the fool?" "Then let's not compete for the patriarch position," Gu Yun urged. "Let's find a quiet mountain village and spend the rest of our lives together." Yi Lingtian turned sharply, his tone stern. "Never say that again. You know my ambition, Yuner. A man's duty is to make a name for himself with his sword, cleaving through injustice and achieving greatness. How can I live a life of mediocrity?" I know, Gu Yun nodded, still worried. "I just don't want anything to happen to you. Yi Feiling is so powerful in the clan. How can we possibly fight him?" "I'll find a way," Yi Lingtian said calmly, his gaze deep and resolute. Back at the Yi estate, Yi Feiling stood in the courtyard, exuding the aura of a peak desolate Meridian Realm expert, on the verge of breaking into the Paragon Meridian Realm. He finished a set of Meridian techniques and exhaled deeply. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared silently beside him. "Master, your orders?" the shadow asked in a raspy voice. "Kill 2 people. They had a run-in with my little brother at Moon Queen Pavilion today," Yi Feiling said with a smile, eyes looking into the distance. "After killing them, spread a rumor that it was my second brother who ordered the hit." "Yes." The shadow nodded and gradually vanished into thin air. In the frozen month of November, the outside world was growing colder. Chilly winds howled, and people were bundled in thick clothing. In the inn, little Gue was still complaining. "She was my girl. Why did he barge in and steal her?" "Because his fists are bigger," Su Zimo laughed. "The water in this city runs deeper than you think." "What do you mean, senior brother?" little Gue asked. "Don't sleep too soundly tonight, or you might not even know how you died," Su Zimo said with a smirk. "You mean Yi Lingtian wants to kill us?" little Gue asked, alarmed. "Have you ever heard of a creature called a smiling tiger?"
Su Zimo replied.
The moon was like a silver disk. The early winter night was dry and cold. Perhaps because of the icy winds, the streets were empty even before full dark. In a secluded alley, 5 black-clad masked men appeared. Quick and clean. Leave no survivors, a raspy voice ordered. The others nodded, and their figures melted into the shadows, disappearing entirely. Su Zimo sat lazily at the window, holding a jug of wine, gazing calmly at the bright moon. After a long while, he slowly turned his head and said softly, "Since you're already here, why hide?" Ripples spread through the space around him, like water disturbed by a pebble. 3 black figures materialized in the room. The soaring illusory phantom cloud steps of the Xiong clan from the northern desert, Su Zimo said with interest. A movement technique that lets the user hide in the void, nearly undetectable once trained to its peak. Hearing him expose their origins, the 3 assassins frowned, then lunged straight at him. Chapter 188: The Mysterious Valley. Su Zimo chuckled as the 3 assassins charged at him. The aura of a peak Paragon Meridian Realm cultivator surged from his body. A spark of lightning flashed as Shadow Tyrant was drawn from its sheath. The force of the blade tore through layers of space. Sensing Su Zimo's overwhelming aura, the expressions of the 3 men shifted dramatically. All 3 were desolate Meridian Realm cultivators, but none of them expected that someone Su Zimo's age had already reached the peak of the Paragon Meridian Realm. All 5 of his Meridian gates opened at once, and overwhelming spirit force surged around him. Shadow Tyrant fell from the sky like divine thunder, instantly cleaving one of the assassins in half. Damn! The other 2 panicked and didn't dare stay. They immediately fled in opposite directions. Using the soaring illusory phantom cloud steps, they vanished into the void. Trying to run? Su Zimo laughed softly as blade energy swirled around the space. 19 forms of Dao Seeking. 8th form, Deep Blue World. A light blue aura froze the surrounding space. In this small, enclosed realm, even the slightest ripple couldn't escape Su Zimo's perception. Raising Shadow Tyrant, crimson energy roared as a blood-colored streak slashed through the desolate. 19 forms of Dao Seeking. 6th form, Blade of Slaughter. Violent blade energy tore through the air. Thunderous booms echoed as the attack landed. 2 distinct screams rang out in the void, followed by blood mist and the stench of death that filled the room. Su Zimo kicked open the door to Little Gui's room. Inside, Little Gui was already badly wounded, struggling against 2 black-clad assassins. Despite only being at the peak of the true Meridian Realm, he had managed to survive this long against desolate Meridian Realm foes, a feat in itself. Seeing Su Zimo arrive, the 2 black-robed attackers hesitated. A flash of blade energy tore through the air. One of them barely had time to react before being shredded into pieces. Talk? Who sent you? Su Zimo stepped toward the last remaining assassin. The air was thick with Shadow Tyrant's blade aura. The man was surrounded. A single wrong move and he would be diced on the spot. I'll never betray the 2nd young master. Don't bother asking, the assassin said coldly. So it was him. Had a quarrel with us during the day and sent killers at night. Little Gui growled angrily. Su Zimo shook his head with a grin. Still lying on the verge of death? Believe it or not, I don't care, the man replied flatly. I'm dead either way. Yes, it was the 2nd young master. He felt embarrassed after today's incident and sent us to avenge him. As soon as he finished speaking, blade energy slashed from the void. The scream of agony was brief as he was split in 2. Pointless, Su Zimo murmured, eyes narrowing. What now, senior brother? Little Gui asked. You really believe that story? Su Zimo asked. Not sure. But from what we know, only Yi Lingtian had a motive, Little Gui replied. If not him, who else? You need to look underneath the underneath, Su Zimo said. Tomorrow morning, ask around. Find out if anyone in the Yi clan has ties to the Xiong clan of the northern desert. Little Gui nodded. The first winter wind blew down from the distant sky. Trees shivered in the chill, and just as dawn broke, The first snowflake fell gently to the ground. Like the opening notes of Winter's symphony, more snow followed, one flake after another. The world turned white. Silence fell. All was still. Early in the morning, a carriage left primordial ancient city. Although the snowfall had just started, the roads were already lightly covered. The carriage slowly disappeared into the horizon. Snowflakes continued to fall, eventually covering the wheel tracks. After a long journey, Yi Lingtian stepped out of the carriage. "Yuner, you go to Old Moon City for now. I'll find you once I return," he said. "Be careful." Gu Yun hesitated, then nodded with concern. "Don't worry." Yi Lingtian smiled and gently brushed her cheek. "Yuner, these past years you've helped me so much without expecting anything in return. I haven't forgotten any of it. After this clan competition ends and I become the official heir of the Yi clan, I'll marry you properly." Gu Yun's nose turned red with emotion. She nodded heavily. All these years of silent companionship, wasn't she just waiting for him to say those words? Watching him disappear into the snow, she clenched her fists and whispered, "Lingtian, I'll wait for you." The snow kept falling. The world outside was blanketed in white. Yi Lingtian's body was covered in snow, his eyebrows and hair frosted white. He looked up to confirm his direction, then kept moving forward. After a long trek, even his true Meridian Realm body was stiff from the cold. At last, he arrived at a small mountain range outside the city. In the center of the range was a mysterious valley. Though it was snowing heavily outside, the valley remained in eternal spring. But stranger still, the valley's plants and animals were all tainted, their bodies entirely black, as if corrupted. Yi Lingtian approached the entrance of the valley and was blocked by a transparent barrier. He stood silently before it for a long time, seemingly making a decision. Then he pulled a black token from his spatial ring. Dark energy rolled off the token. It was like a manifestation of evil itself. As he placed the token against the barrier, it hissed and corroded a hole in the shield. Yi Lingtian stepped through, and the hole closed behind him. "So, you came after all." A deep, oppressive voice echoed from the shadows. Chapter 189, Planting a Demon in the Dao Heart. The voice echoed from an unknown direction, resonating powerfully through the silent valley. "Please grant me your power. I'm willing to give everything I have," Yi Lingtian said after a long pause, finally dropping to his knees. "Open your heart. Let me plant a demonic mark upon your Dao heart. You shall become a demon apostle and receive my strength." The voice replied coldly. "I'm willing." Yi Lingtian quickly nodded. Dark demonic energy descended from the heavens, wrapping around his body. Yi Lingtian's face twisted in pain as he let out a terrible scream. "Resist no more. Submit to my demonic will. It shall be the guiding light of your life." The voice echoed again, oddly calming and persuasive. Yi Lingtian writhed on the ground, as if being consumed by the demonic aura. It wasn't just his body, his very soul was being corrupted. No one knew how much time passed before he finally lay still. His skin turned pitch black, and within his eyes, dark energy stirred. His entire presence had transformed. His gaze became emotionless and cold. Most notably, 5 meridian gates had fully opened. He had broken through to the Paragon Meridian realm. Clenching his fists, Yi Lingtian could feel the immense power coursing through him. "Clan competition. Dear brother, I've got a surprise waiting for you," he said with a wicked grin. "Go. When you become the patriarch of the Yi clan and gain full control, I'll bestow you with greater gifts," the voice said coolly. "Though you are now in the Paragon Meridian realm, your body's potential is exhausted. You won't be able to advance through cultivation alone. From now on, you'll rely on me." "I understand, my lord," Yi Lingtian quickly replied. As Yi Lingtian disappeared into the snow, an eerie laughter echoed through the silent valley. "Just wait. When darkness descends again, our return will begin. This time, no resistance will matter. Everything will fall under our rules and perish." Despite the icy snow, the Yi clan's estate was ablaze with excitement. The long-awaited competition to determine the next clan patriarch was happening today. All the young members of the family gathered early in the morning. This wasn't an ordinary event. Yi Shilong, the current patriarch, had previously declared whoever won first place in the family competition would become the official successor of the Yi clan. The martial arena, a space reserved specifically for internal family duels, was packed with contestants. All of Primordial Ancient City was invited to witness the event. The Yi clan had also extended invitations to many influential clans and dignitaries in the city. Back at the inn, Little Gue brushed the snow off his clothes and returned to the room. "Did you find anything?" Su Zimo asked. "Yeah," Little Gue nodded. The Yi clan head, Yi Shilong, took a second wife, the daughter of the Xiong clan's patriarch from the northern desert. Their son is Yi Feiling, the young man we ran into yesterday. So, could it be Yi Lingtian really isn't involved? Su Zimo asked with a faint smile, eyes gazing thoughtfully out the snowy window. "Oh right, senior brother," Little Gue added. "Today is the competition for the next Yi clan's heir position. Wanna go check it out?" "Sure." Su Zimo nodded with a grin. The two bought an oiled paper umbrella and made their way to the Yi estate through the gently falling snow. The sky was pure white, and the snowfall had slowed. Su Zimo and Little Gue weren't in any rush. They even stopped for breakfast along the way. By the time they arrived, the competition was already nearing its end. On the arena stage, Yi Feiling stood in white robes, sword in hand. Sword aura danced wildly around him. Opposite him, Yi Lingtian wore plain blue robes and carried a calm demeanor. "Lingtian, I'm so proud of you," Yi Feiling smiled. "To see you standing tall and not falling into ruin, you're truly a son of the Yi clan. How long do you intend to keep up this facade?" Yi Lingtian asked coolly. "What do you mean?" Yi Feiling looked briefly startled. "Let's settle this with strength. If I beat you, I become heir," Yi Lingtian replied plainly. "Dear brother, if it were anything else, I'd gladly let you have it." Yi Feiling shook his head. "But the position of patriarch concerns our clan's future. I cannot hold back." "Who asked you to?" Yi Lingtian sneered. At that moment, a mighty aura unique to the Paragon Meridian realm exploded from Yi Lingtian. Tendrils of dark energy rose into the air. His eyes were completely devoid of emotion. Yi Feiling's heart skipped a beat. 5 meridian gates. Impossible, he muttered in disbelief. Snow drifted down onto Yi Lingtian's shoulders, but it evaporated instantly under the heat of his demonic aura. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. That aura, it felt very familiar, but he couldn't recall why. The entire arena fell silent. No one could believe it. The once labeled Wastrel Second Son had reached the Paragon Meridian realm at such a young age? Even many holy sons from imperial lineages couldn't claim such a feat. Even Yi Shilong, the Yi clan's patriarch, rose from his seat, frowning as he took in the turn of events. Dark energy wrapped around Yi Lingtian. He raised his fists and launched a single strike. Yi Feiling was immediately blown off the stage. Spirit force surged wildly.
Ye Lingshan lafet heartily.
Years of humiliation and suppression were finally released. Looking at Yi Feiling, who lay unconscious on the ground, he turned to the seats of honor and shouted, "Father, elders, do we have a winner?" The audience remained still. Yi Shilong paused for a long while, then chuckled. "Lingtian, my son, becoming patriarch is a weighty matter. It cannot be decided so casually. You've never managed any clan affairs. A true leader needs more than strength. Strategy and leadership are just as important. So, you're going back on your word?"
Ye Lingshan frowned.
"Not at all," said the Grand Elder, stepping forward. "Our Yi clan has a rule. If 6 of the clan elders simultaneously object to the patriarch's decision, the decree can be overturned. Chapter 190 Glory Va Power are nothing but dust." "What do you mean by that?" Yi Lingtian suddenly felt a surge of unease. "We, the 6 elders, jointly reject the patriarch's prior decree," the Grand Elder said flatly. As of now, the command that the winner of the clan competition shall become heir is officially revoked. I second the motion. I do too. The remaining 5 elders all nodded in agreement. Yi Lingtian's expression turned grim. He glared intensely at the clan's top figures. He gave a hollow laugh and said coldly, "So this is what power tastes like, the elites manipulating rules and authority to toy with others. If my brother was already predetermined to be the heir, why bother holding this competition at all? Failing is simply more suited to lead the Yi clan," the Grand Elder snorted. "Ask anyone here, what kind of image do you think you've left in their minds?" Yi Shilong, the patriarch, sighed. "Ling Tian, once your brother becomes the next patriarch, you can serve as an elder and assist him. Together, you two can bring the Yi clan to new heights." Yi Lingtian couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. All those years of enduring humiliation, suffering in silence, just for this one chance. And now all of that had become nothing more than a cruel joke. "I don't accept this." Yi Lingtian lifted his head and roared with fury. He knew this was his one and only opportunity. If he gained nothing from this, it would be almost impossible to rise again. "So what if you don't accept it?" the Grand Elder sneered. "You've wasted your years in debauchery. How could you possibly have reached the Paragon Meridian realm? Look at yourself now. I suspect you've aligned with some demonic force." Demonic energy rolled off Yi Lingtian's body as he gave a mocking laugh. "Oh? So now you're handing me a sentence. The clan will investigate thoroughly. But for now, you're not going anywhere," the Grand Elder said indifferently. As his words fell, a mighty aura from the Empyrean Meridian realm surged from his body, crushing down on Yi Lingtian. Though the Grand Elder had only just entered the Empyrean Meridian realm, it was more than enough to completely suppress a Paragon Meridian cultivator. Yi Lingtian felt as if a mountain had dropped on him, his body frozen, immobile under the overwhelming pressure. "I can't lose to this piece of trash." Suddenly, Yi Failing, disheveled and wild-eyed, stood up from where Yi Lingtian had knocked him down. His mind a whirlwind. His pride as the golden child couldn't handle this defeat. His eyes turned crazed. "Die, you wretch!" he roared, raising his sword and charging at Yi Lingtian. Sword energy flared viciously. His expression twisted. He had no intention of holding back. Just as the blade was about to pierce Yi Lingtian's abdomen, a blue figure darted out of the crowd and threw herself in front of him. PFT. The sword plunged into her. Gu Yun looked down at the sword embedded in her chest, then turned and smiled at Yi Lingtian. "Lingtian, this is all I can do," she whispered. A violent surge of demonic energy erupted around Yi Lingtian, mad, unstable, and filled with grief. So intense was the eruption that even the Empyrean Meridian pressure from the Grand Elder momentarily faltered. Yi Lingtian caught the blood-soaked girl in his arms. His eyes were bloodshot. He tried to speak but choked on his own breath. All he could do was shake his head in anguish, softly repeating, "No, no, don't go. Lingtian, you know?" Gu Yun said weakly, raising her trembling hands to wipe away his tears. "I really just wanted to be with you. Even if life was hard or simple, it didn't matter. I just really wanted that." Blood gushed from her chest like an open river. Her face paled. The light in her eyes began to dim. "Don't worry. Once you're better, I'll take you away from here. Somewhere no one can find us. No one can bother us," Yi Lingtian said urgently. His hands trembling, he poured countless pills from his spatial ring into her mouth. But the sword had not just pierced her. It had destroyed her organs with its sword energy. Unless a miracle-grade elixir existed, nothing could save her. "Promise me, you'll live well," she whispered. With a final smile, her hands slid from Yi Lingtian's face, and her eyes closed forever. Yi Lingtian howled in despair, shouting her name again and again, but there was no response. Once he thought his dream was glory, conquest, greatness, to do something earth-shaking. But now, as the girl died in his arms, he realized the truth. She had been everything. Glory, fame, and conquest mean nothing. I never should have come here. You deserve to die. Yi Lingtian growled, lifting his gaze, eyes burning with vengeance, locked onto Yi Feiling. Yi Feiling took several steps back, gulping nervously. Enough! The Grand Elder frowned. Do you want to make the Yi clan a laughingstock in front of all these guests? Yi Lingtian didn't respond. He surged forward, demonic energy swirling, charging at Yi Feiling. I said enough. Are you deaf? A giant palm formed from spirit force slammed Yi Lingtian to the ground. Still, he struggled to rise, laughing bitterly, then dashed again toward Yi Feiling without a second thought. Yi Feiling didn't dare face him, he turned and fled. Yi Lingtian, will you kill your own kin? The Grand Elder barked. His Empyrean meridian pressure locked Yi Lingtian in place. No matter how hard Yi Lingtian struggled, it was no use. Patriarch, elders, I believe his mind has been overtaken by a demonic entity. He must be executed. Yi Feiling added, seizing the opportunity. Yi Shilong frowned. After a moment, he replied coldly, put him in solitary confinement for now. Yi Lingtian, immobilized, could only watch as two Yi clan disciples came to take him away. His face held no expression. His eyes were blank as death, fixed silently on Gu Yun's body. After he was taken away, Yi Shilong addressed the guests with a few words of apology. As the competition ended, one thing was certain. This event would spark a storm in primordial ancient city, and it would be the center of gossip at every tea table for weeks to come. Chapter 191 The Dark Primordial Race reappears. After returning to the inn, Su Zimo and Little Gue planned to leave primordial ancient city. Senior brother, are we just letting the assassination attempt go like that? Little Gue asked, confused. No one will get away with it. It's just not the right time to act yet. We don't want to startle the snake by hitting the grass. Su Zimo said with a smile, shaking his head. Have you already figured out who the assassin is? Little Gue asked. Haven't you got your own answer too?
Su Zimo replied, smiling.
That afternoon, the two of them left primordial ancient city, riding a dark sky tiger and a green flood stallion. Dusk and sunset interwove along the horizon. After a snowfall, the world seemed brighter, refreshed, as if it had just been washed clean. On a secluded street in primordial ancient city, there was a small tea stall. Probably due to the remote location, business was slow. An old man was sitting in front of the stall, engrossed in reading a tea manual. Grandpa, that guy named Yi Lingtian is so pitiful, said a little girl beside him with a ponytail and chubby cheeks. The Yi clan is one of the big clans in our city, but they have no principles at all. Pitiful? The old man chuckled, shook his head, closed the tea manual and said, Little Chi, you need to understand, everyone in this world has it tough. Everyone is doing their best to survive. There's no such thing as pitiful or not. The path you choose is your own. No matter the outcome, you must face it and accept it calmly. As he spoke, the old man seemed to recall something. He sighed with emotion, his gaze deep as he looked toward the sky. Old Yu, brew a pot of sunset red. A voice interrupted his thoughts. Coming right up, the old man said with a smile, getting busy again. After leaving the city, Su Zimo and Little Gue determined their direction and headed toward the Bailey Imperial clan. The snowfall had stopped. Distant mountains were shrouded in a blanket of white mist. In this silent and lifeless winter, there were hardly any travelers near primordial ancient city. The surroundings felt desolate. Not long after they set out, the two saw a black dot on the distant horizon. It was moving fast. Within moments, it was right in front of them. It was a figure, an old man to be precise. He wore a black robe. His hunched figure stood between heaven and earth. Though he didn't radiate overwhelming power, the pressure he gave off was suffocating. Hand over the Azure Cloud Battle Physique Pearl and the information about the third battle physique, the old man said flatly, and I'll let you die a little less painfully. I thought you people from Dark Primordial had already been scared out of your wits, Su Zimo replied with a smirk. This old man was the same one who had previously been the innkeeper at the desolate tavern. "So, you lured me here on purpose." The old man frowned slightly. He spread out his divine sense but didn't detect any other presence nearby. As a peak Empyrean Meridian realm cultivator, he had full confidence in his own strength. "You dark primordials really are bold. The catastrophe that struck primordial ancient city back then was caused by your race. And now you dare show up here openly," Su Zimo said. "So what?" The old man replied with a slight shake of his head. "That was a golden opportunity. If some fools in our race hadn't ruined it, who knows who would have ushered in this new era." Su Zimo fell silent for a moment. Though he hadn't lived through the era of dark primordials, in the river of fate he had experienced, he could feel just how terrifying that great disaster was. That was still the era of desolate beasts. Humanity had no real status. Beasts ruled over everything. People often said there were 3,000 races in the world. But the reality was, 3,000 was far from enough to describe them all. Back then, no one really knew about the dark primordial race. Not until they spent centuries building their strength in secret, and finally emerged to invade the entire primordial heartlands, did the world begin to understand their terror. Even the mighty beast races had to avoid direct confrontation with them. Yet, in those tens of thousands of years of war against dark primordials, one race's contribution stood out above the rest: the Titan race. In the era after the beasts, they were the second most powerful race. Sadly, in their desperate battle against the dark primordials, they gave everything they had. Though they ultimately claimed a narrow victory, they were almost wiped out in the process. Only a tenth of the Titan race's strength remained. To honor their sacrifice for the continent, all major powers reached a consensus. No one was allowed to harm the Titans without cause. That rule held fast, even after Grand Emperor Zhen Wu founded the imperial era. He never abolished it. But as time passed, people gradually forgot the glory of the Titans. More and more began secretly hunting them. For example, back when Su Zimo was in the Grand Myriad Mountains, Qi Chenxue tried to kill a Titan just to get a life element treasure. "I'm really curious about what kind of backup plan you've got," the old man chuckled, releasing his peak Empyrean Meridian realm aura. "You lured me out here. What are you planning?" "You'll find out soon enough," Su Zimo replied with a smile. Beside him, a massive vortex suddenly appeared, accompanied by a deafening beast roar that shook heaven and earth. A colossal creature slowly emerged from the vortex, Chaos, the primordial beast. "A primordial beast!" The old man stared at Chaos, eyes full of disbelief. "I can't believe a creature like that still exists. And actually agreed to become your meridian beast? Old man, that foul aura on you is really unpleasant," Chaos replied coldly. To ancient beasts that had survived the dark primordials, it wasn't just humanity they hated. The dark primordial race were their mortal enemies. When Chaos raised its left claw, a storm of immense power surged forth. Space itself cracked and thundered as the claw came crashing down toward the old man. Only then did the old man's expression change. A dark gray aura surged from his body, condensing into a thick mist. When Chaos's right claw struck the mist, a miserable scream rang out as it shattered instantly. The ground below split open into a massive chasm several dozen meters wide. The old man had already leapt into midair. His true life essence had revealed itself above his head, a gray mist, flickering with crimson light. It resembled a sea of blood from the underworld. Countless savage monsters howled within it, emitting sharp, piercing screams. The sky itself seemed to be swallowed by that terrifying mist. Looking up, the once clear world was now consumed by gray fog. Chapter 192: The Dust of an Era. God Meridian Realm Beast. The old man's expression had grown grim. He stared deeply at Chaos and spoke each word with weight. That earlier strike, the sheer force of it, was far beyond what any ordinary Empyrean Meridian Realm beast could manage. "Old man, unless the 10 death gods of the dark primordials descend today, you're not even worth worrying about," Chaos said with a contemptuous grin. It opened its mouth wide, and the hellish, blood sea-like gray mist swirling above the old man's head was completely sucked into its belly. Chaos burped loudly. Then it raised its right claw again, and the spiritual energy in the sky surged violently. A massive claw materialized, reaching straight for the old man. The old man didn't dare confront it head-on. He immediately tried to escape by slipping into the void. But Chaos's monstrous aura spread out, and the spiritual energy around its body froze the space for miles in every direction. The old man's form was forcibly expelled from the void. Although he was an Empyrean Meridian Realm powerhouse, under the lockdown of a God Meridian Realm beast like Chaos, he couldn't tear open the space to flee. The massive claw descended from the heavens, its rumble echoing through the air. The spiritual energy-forged claw grasped the old man firmly. No matter how he struggled, it was useless. A flea-like insect, Chaos scoffed and slammed its claw down. A deafening explosion shook the sky. Even though the old man had done everything he could to defend himself, he was still crushed and severely injured, barely clinging to life. However, his injuries were visibly healing at an astonishing speed. Such was the power of an Empyrean Meridian Realm cultivator. As long as the soul remains intact, any injury is just a matter of time to recover from. "Boss, he's temporarily lost all combat power," Chaos said, clearly proud of itself. Su Zimo smiled and walked up to the old man. "Now, shall we talk?" The old man was silent for a moment, then said, "I'm curious. What did you go through all this trouble to lure me here for?" "Let's move first," Su Zimo said with a smile. "This place is too close to Primordial Ancient City. That commotion just now might have drawn some attention." Then Chaos picked the old man up, and the group left through the sky. Not far away, they stopped in front of a snow-covered mountain range. "Honestly, I don't have any major grudge against the Dark Primordial race," Su Zimo said with a smile. "As long as you tell me what I want to know, I'll let you go." "What do you want?" the old man rasped. "You Dark Primordials have spent tens of thousands of years researching a certain secret technique," Su Zimo replied. "You want the secret of battle physique fusion?" The old man's expression changed. Then he quickly shook his head.
Impossible.
"Even if you kill me, I'll never tell you." "Drop the act," Su Zimo chuckled. "I know more about the 100 battle physiques than you people do. No offense, but if you Dark Primordials think you're qualified to fuse the 100 battle physiques, you're not even close." The old man's face changed slightly at those words, but he quickly composed himself. "I don't understand what you're talking about," he said flatly. "That's fine. Let me tell you a story and you'll understand," Su Zimo said with a smile. Once upon a time, there was an era called the Desolate Era. The Beast race, the Titans, and the Undying race divided the world among themselves, ruling over that age. The Beasts were strongest, followed by the Titans and then the Undying. In that blood-soaked era, outside of those three main races, all other races were treated like insects, slaughtered at will, even used as food for the beasts. In a remote corner of the Desolate Era lived a race called Dark Primordials. Their overlord was a man who hated injustice in the world, idealistic and passionate to the point of naivety. "You're the naive one," the old man suddenly interrupted, his voice rising. "That was our noble dream. You idiots could never understand that kind of ambition." His voice grew quieter as he spoke, and he slowly squatted down, hugging his head and weeping bitterly. It was hard to imagine. A man who had lived through countless trials, an Empyrean Meridian Realm powerhouse, breaking down in tears like this. "Our race's leader believed that all things in this world are equal," the old man choked out. "No one is born above anyone else." Then he began to tell the story of his race. "We stumbled upon an item, something that granted us immense power. After tens of thousands of years of dormancy, our race reached an unprecedented peak. By then, there were over 10,000 races in the Desolate Era. No one knew the name Dark Primordial. No one realized what we were about to unleash. That day it was raining hard. The race's leader told us he didn't know what this path would bring upon our people, but he had no regrets. As he spoke, The old man's emotions flared again. Why should the three major races be born noble and supreme, while everyone else scrapes by like worms? We started a war, not to destroy the world, but to defeat the three great races and build a more just, fair world. We rallied all the other races, hoping to overthrow the three-race rule. We could have created a golden age, a new era. We knew true fairness didn't exist, but we could bring balance. But you fools, none of you dared rebel against the three races. He went quiet for a long time, then finally shook his head and laughed bitterly. The power of the three great races was deeply rooted in everyone's minds. The other races didn't dare join us. Worse, they turned around and helped the three races crush us. That war lasted tens of thousands of years, and we were nearly wiped out. We lost completely, but the world will never know the truth. We were the ones who should have been remembered by history. Instead, thanks to the propaganda of the three great races, we became the demons bent on destroying the world, the vermin that everyone hated. We were forced to live in the shadows of the sewers, clinging to our dreams and ideals, dying quietly and living in disgrace. Hearing the old man's words, Su Zimo turned to look at Chaos. Chaos quickly explained, "That war back then, it was commanded by ancestors from the upper realm. We were just following orders. Besides, you're an Empyrean Meridian cultivator. How the hell did you survive from the Desolate Era to now? Why should we believe anything you're saying? It doesn't matter anymore. Someone had to stand up, didn't they?" The old man said with a sad smile, shaking his head. "Even without the dark primordials, didn't a man named Zhen Wu rise later to end it all?" Chapter 193, Battle Physique Fusion. Hearing the old man's words, Su Zimo smiled and said, "What I'm really curious about is this. How does an Empyrean Meridian realm cultivator like you survive all the way from the Desolate Era until now? Give it up. I won't tell you anything," the old man replied calmly. At that moment, inside Su Zimo's storage ring, the leaf he had obtained from the secret realm suddenly emitted a green glow. "He's consumed a leaf of life before," said the consciousness within the leaf. Su Zimo nodded and said, "All right then, back to business. Give me that secret technique, and I'll let you go." "I don't know what secret technique you're talking about," the old man replied flatly. "If it's the battle physique fusion technique, then forget it." "You're still not going to admit it?" Su Zimo smiled. "You all know deep down that the battle physique fusion technique is just a front. What you've really been researching in secret is the twin-born battle physique technique, isn't it?" Hearing that, the old man's expression changed drastically. He stared at Su Zimo, stunned. This technique was one of the dark primordial race's top secrets. Other than the 10 death gods, the 9 spirit gods, and the 13 Empyreans, no one else was supposed to know of it. Even many within the dark primordial race itself were unaware of its existence. The old man felt a chill. He had no idea how Su Zimo knew. Could a high-ranking member of the race have betrayed them? But thinking it through, that seemed impossible. After all, they had all walked through the Desolate Era together. They shared the same dreams and ideals. No one would betray that. "How do you know about this?" the old man asked in a low voice. At this point, he knew there was no point in hiding it anymore. "That's not important," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "We're not enemies. Maybe we could even work together." Su Zimo was determined to get the twin-born battle physique technique. It would allow a cultivator to wield 2 battle physiques at once. The key was, these 2 battle physiques wouldn't both be fused into the body. Someone like Su Zimo, who had already fused with his first battle physique, wouldn't benefit much from fusing more through physical means. But the twin-born technique was tied to the realm beyond Empyrean Meridian. After reaching the Empyrean Meridian realm, a cultivator can form a complete god soul. As long as the god soul remains intact, no matter how badly the body is damaged, it can eventually recover. This twin-born technique was directly related to the god soul. Normal battle physique fusion is purely physical. But with the twin-born technique, while one battle physique is fused into the body, a second can be fused into the god soul. Think about it. Since the emergence of the 100 battle physiques, no one has ever fused one into their soul. With a battle physique strengthening the god soul, a cultivator's psychic attack and defense abilities would skyrocket. No exaggeration. Once this technique spreads, it will redefine the cultivation system of the entire primordial heartlands. Among Empyrean Meridian realm cultivators, whether or not the soul is fused with a battle physique will create an enormous gap in power. This technique took my clan millions of years to develop and cost us dearly, the old man said. If I hand it over to you, I'll be betraying everything. Even death wouldn't redeem me. I can't let it all go to waste. Don't be so sure. Let me tell you another story, Su Zimo said with a grin. After the dark primordials were defeated, you went into hiding across the primordial heartlands. Your main base is in the City of Clouds, but you've also set up branch locations in major cities, like the Desolate Tavern in Primordial Ancient City, the Star Tower in Ancient Heaven City, and the Desert Sand Tea House in the north. As Su Zimo listed them off one by one, the old man's face grew more and more alarmed. Tell me, if I made all this public, what do you think would happen to your dark primordial race? The old man glared at Su Zimo, gritting his teeth. You deserve to die. That really hurts my feelings. Su Zimo clicked his tongue and smiled. I haven't even killed any dark primordial race members, just shared some information. Oh, and by the way, after your defeat in the Desolate Era War, you've spent 1,000,000 years recovering. If your base in the City of Clouds gets exposed, don't you think all that effort will vanish into smoke? Fine. I'll give you the technique, the old man said after a long silence, staring hard at Su Zimo. But why should I trust you? What if you take it and still spread the information? I'd have no way to stop you. You don't have a choice, Su Zimo replied coolly. If I were going to spread it, I already would've. You're not the only one of the 13 Empyreans. I could just find another dark primordial. Give me the technique and I'll let you go. Also, I want to meet your 10 death gods. Let one of them come talk to me. The old man fell silent again for a long time, then finally gave a reluctant nod. I'll only say the technique once. Memorize it. I don't trust verbal explanations, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Especially when it comes to something involving the soul. We can't afford any mistakes. Then what do you want? The old man frowned. Open your mind. I want to see your memories, Su Zimo said. Absolutely not. The old man's expression changed. He flatly refused. If Su Zimo accessed his memories, his entire life, all his secrets, would be exposed. Relax. I only want the memories related to the twin-born battle physique research. I'm not interested in the rest, Su Zimo assured him with a smile. The old man thought for a long time, then finally agreed with great reluctance. Truthfully, at their level, very few things could threaten them anymore. Even death wasn't that scary. But Su Zimo had targeted what they cared most about, their people. That was their one true weakness. As the old man opened his mind, he extracted the segment of memory related to the twin-born battle physique and shared it with Su Zimo. The memory was long. It started from the very beginning of Dark Primordial Race's research, countless failures, 1,000,000 years of setbacks and pain. Su Zimo gained a vivid, first-hand impression of the technique, as if he had personally participated in the research himself. By the time the memory finished playing, nearly 7 days had passed. Su Zimo exhaled deeply and smiled. I have to admit, when it comes to pioneering spirit and brilliance, your dark primordial race is truly impressive. Chapter 194, Infernal Lord. Welcome back. Now, shouldn't you fulfill your promise? The old man asked, his expression sour. After all, anyone would feel awful knowing their memories had been accessed, and 1,000,000 years of effort from their entire race had ended up benefiting someone else. You're free to go. Su Zimo nodded, signaling chaos to release the old man from his suppression. Hopefully we'll meet again, Su Zimo said with a smile. Better we never cross paths again, not even in death, the old man replied coldly. His Empyrean Meridian realm aura surged, and in the blink of an eye, his figure vanished into the endless void. Senior brother, do you think the dark primordial race will retaliate? Little Gue asked worriedly. Who knows? Su Zimo replied with a smile. He sat down cross-legged and began to organize the knowledge he had just received about the twin-born battle physique technique. This secret art could only be used after advancing to the Empyrean Meridian realm and forming a complete god soul. However, he could start preparing which battle physique to fuse. Though he currently possessed the Azure Cloud battle physique, Su Zimo honestly wasn't too impressed by it. Since the second battle physique would be fused into the god soul, it was important to choose one that was highly compatible with the soul from among the 100 battle physiques. At dawn, the rising sun slowly peeked out from the eastern horizon. The snow-covered world began to melt under its gentle light. The air felt even colder. Su Zimo and Little Gue were preparing to leave the mountain range and head toward the Bailey Imperial clan. They had only walked a few steps when the ground began to shake. A stream of black demonic energy slowly rose from the center of the mountains, like a dark mushroom cloud erupting into the sky, blotting out the heavens. "Senior brother, what is that?" Little Gue asked in shock. "Let's go check it out," Su Zimo said, squinting his eyes. He could feel something within him pulling, his heartbeat speeding up uncontrollably. "Senior brother, maybe we should just leave. That has to be some kind of monstrous calamity," Little Gue said nervously. "You go back to Primordial Ancient City and wait for me," Su Zimo said, eyes fixed on the black mist in the distance. "Senior brother, I'm not someone who fears death. I'll go with you," Little Gue insisted. "That's not what I meant. I feel something calling me. You need to go." Su Zimo shook his head. "I'll come find you later." Little Gue hesitated, then finally said, "All right, I'll wait 3 days. If you're not out by then, I'll return to the sacred ground and bring reinforcements." Su Zimo nodded slightly. As he watched Little Gue's figure disappear, he turned back, paused for a moment, then made his way toward the center of the mountain range. Boundless demonic energy surged and roared. Within it, twisted and tormented faces appeared, full of agony and despair. The sky itself was dyed black. This energy was pure, untainted by any other attribute. It transformed into countless forms, churning all around, and under its power, it felt as if all things in the world submitted. The deeper Su Zimo went, the stronger the familiar feeling in his body became. The demonic energy intensified until he reached a valley. "Welcome to my realm of despair. I am the demon of despair, Paimon." A twisted, terrifying face formed from black mist appeared in the air. The demonic energy around it grew even thicker, corroding the space into pitch black. "Insect, submit to me. Engrave my demonic mark onto your true fate. Become a demon apostle, and you shall receive my supreme power." The moment this demon appeared, Su Zimo felt a repressed power in his body surge to its peak. He threw his head back and roared. Demonic energy erupted from his entire body as his hell-suppressing deity physique activated on its own. The sky-darkening demonic clouds were instantly torn apart. Dragon-like lightning streaked across the sky. Even purer, more terrifying demonic energy began rising from Su Zimo's body. His hair turned blazing red. Purple-black markings appeared across his face. His demonic pupils radiated with endless darkness. His muscles tensed and swelled with power. All the demonic energy in the sky bowed before him, coiling around his body. At that moment, he looked like the ruler of all existence, an eternal king. This can't be." The demonic face stared at him, muttering in disbelief. Su Zimo felt like his head was about to explode. A flood of fragmented, unfamiliar memories rushed into his mind. "Remember my name, Paimon, commander of the Southeastern Division of the Demon-Slaying Legion. You little demon bastards will all be wiped out one day. Your infernal lord's head will be taken by me, Paimon the warrior. I lost. Why didn't you kill me? Don't think I'll ever submit to you just because you spared me. Never. We are mortal enemies, eternal enemies. This ends in death. What path are you people even trying to walk? Is this what you call ambition? Infernal Lord, may I join you? By the name of Warrior Paimon, I swear, I am willing to become the demon of despair, to follow you for the rest of my life. Even if it means making enemies of the entire world, I will not hesitate. Until the end of time, until all things fall into ruin. Countless tendrils of demonic energy bowed before the man in the sky, as if all of existence could only look up to him. You've returned, Paimon said in shock, his voice trembling with excitement. There's no mistake. That aura, that bloodline, even though you haven't fully awakened yet, I can still see that figure, the one who once stood alone, halberd in hand, marching toward the end of the world. You've returned from death. The ancient demons can finally rise again, Paimon muttered to himself, laughing madly as he threw his head back. His demonic aura shook the heavens and roared through the void. His laughter was filled with wickedness and unrestrained joy. Infernal Lord, welcome back. Su Zimo was still trying to make sense of the chaotic memory fragments in his mind. They were far too scattered and disjointed, making no coherent sense. Most of the memories felt out of order or contradictory. Before him, the demonic energy gathered like thunderclouds before a storm, dark, oppressive, and suffocating. A roar came from within the mist, and then a towering figure leapt out of the black clouds. With a single leap, he landed with a thunderous crash. Dust soared into the sky, and a massive fissure split the earth, extending to the horizon, deep and endless. One of the 18 infernal archons, Paimon, demon of despair, greets my lord. Chapter 195. I have come to kill someone. The burly man stood over 3 meters tall, his entire body cloaked in jet-black skin, radiating intense demonic energy. His eyes were a bloody crimson, savage and eerie, and 2 rock-hard bull-like horns protruded from his forehead. Even his breath came out in dark, inky black puffs. As he slowly knelt down, the very space around him buzzed and trembled. Every movement he made carried an aura of apocalyptic destruction. Infernal Lord. Is he talking about me? Su Zimo murmured to himself. My lord, you haven't been to the primordial demon cave yet, have you? Paimon asked respectfully. What is that place?
Su Zimo Frauen.
He tried to think. Something about the name felt familiar, but he just couldn't recall it. That's fine, Paimon said. Once you accept your inheritance and wield the sky-piercing halberd again, everything will become clear. You know a lot about me? Su Zimo asked, frowning. My lord, I was once your general, Paimon replied quickly. I've been slumbering here for 1,000,000 years, waiting for your return. How do you know I'm the one you've been waiting for? Su Zimo asked suspiciously. Your aura, your bloodline, it's unmistakable. And the hell-suppressing demon physique, that's unmistakable too, Paimon answered with reverence.
Démon physique?
Isn't it a deity physique? Su Zimo asked in surprise. My lord, that physique was originally yours, Paimon explained. After your defeat, it was forcibly torn apart and refined by the heavenly Tao. If obtained by a so-called chosen one, it manifests as a deity physique. But now that it has returned to its rightful owner, it is, by nature, a demon physique. Hearing this, Su Zimo finally understood. No wonder when he activated the hell-suppressing physique, it looked completely different from how it had manifested in Chu Yang's past life. Infernal Lord? Su Zimo muttered, then asked again. How much do you know about who I used to be? No one truly knows where you came from. Even we infernal archons weren't told much. But that didn't matter to us, Paimon said with fanatical devotion. All we needed to know was that following you was the path forward. You were like the blazing sun in the void, a lighthouse across the raging sea. You would guide us, lead us, help us uncover life's meaning, open the door to a new world, and build an eternal kingdom, with you as the eternal infernal lord. Watching Paimon, Su Zimo couldn't help but think of a fanatic follower. What's your cultivation level? He asked. I've already opened 9 meridian gates. I'm at the peak of the profound Tao realm, Paimon answered quickly. In fact, I've already broken through the 10th gate. But this world suppresses power. It doesn't allow anyone above the Grand Emperor realm to exist. So I can only maintain my current profound Tao strength.
Sujimo nốt đét.
After all, reaching the God Meridian realm meant opening 8 Meridian gates. From there, to enter the path of Tao or path of immortality, a cultivator must break the 9th gate and ascend to the upper realm. Where is this primordial demon cave you mentioned? Su Zimo asked. In the upper realm. But there's a demon gate in the middle continent that links to it, Paimon replied. If you go to the middle continent, you should visit it. Su Zimo nodded slightly. His head was a mess. He didn't yet understand what being the Infernal Lord truly meant, or what relationship he had with that identity. Those answers would have to wait until he reached the primordial demon cave. My lord, please allow me to follow you from now on, Paimon pleaded. These long millennia of waiting. All I've ever wanted is to follow in your footsteps again, just like before. You may follow me, but from now on, without my command, you are not to interfere in anything, Su Zimo said flatly. He released his hell-suppressing demon physique state and descended slowly from the sky. The demonic aura in the air gradually dissipated. I wouldn't dare, Paimon quickly nodded. The vast demonic aura in the sky condensed into a black cloud. Paimon's towering figure slowly vanished into the cloud, which then disappeared into the void. Su Zimo knew that the demonic cloud would continue to follow him, though no ordinary person would sense its presence. He turned his gaze toward primordial ancient city, which still stood tall at the edge of the sky. Some debts, he murmured, need to be settled. Primordial ancient city, year 10,372 of the imperial era. Gentle sunlight bathed the land, bringing the first hint of warmth to this snow-laden winter. People went about their usual routines, living their lives as always. Steam and aroma wafted from a corner bun shop. The old man at the tea stand held his tea manual as always, reading with great interest. Yi Failing patrolled the family estate, receiving fawning greetings from every younger clan member he passed. It was a day where the snow had just settled, and a warm breeze brushed the earth. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A deep tremor shook the ground from below. At first, the shaking wasn't strong. Many people didn't even notice. But as the vibrations intensified, an old tower in the city crumbled and collapsed. Only then did people begin to realize the earth was shaking. Eyes turned eastward in fear. There, on the horizon, a colossal beast appeared. It seemed to prop up the sky, its shoulders bearing the heavens themselves, marching toward the city step by step. What is that? Someone gasped, scalp tingling with dread. Even though the creature was still far away, the shock of its presence overwhelmed everyone. The entire city was stirred. All eyes were drawn to the horizon. Su Zimo stood atop Chaos's head, wind whipping his long black hair. He wore a black robe with Shadow Tyrant sheathed on his back. His eyes were sharp, fixed on the distant primordial ancient city. Even if 1,000 or 10,000 stand in my way, I will keep walking forward. Within the city, everyone stopped what they were doing and rushed to the gates. The streets were packed with people. The major clans, led by the Yi clan, had already gathered at the forefront of the city. Everyone watched the approaching beast with grave expressions. It was a towering beast, hundreds of meters tall, with 2 massive blood-red wings that blotted out the sun. Its shadow loomed over the entire city, its pressure shaking half the sky. Even the heavens themselves seemed to tremble. As people looked up in awe, they were shocked to realize a black-robed youth stood atop the beast's head. Then a cold, emotionless voice echoed in everyone's ears. I have came to kill someone. Chapter 196, 5 Ancestors of Stone Tablet. May I ask who exactly you are looking for? Yi Shilong stood at the very front. His Empyrean Meridian realm aura surged as he stepped through the air, gazing at Su Zimo with deep caution. Behind him stood the patriarchs of several major clans from primordial ancient city, all closely following. Someone from the Yi clan, Su Zimo said calmly. Upon hearing this, Yi Shilong's expression instantly darkened. After a brief silence, he cautiously asked, "May I ask who in my clan has offended you? A few days ago, I was staying in an inn inside your city and was suddenly ambushed by assassins from the Xiong clan of Northern Desert," Su Zimo replied. "The mastermind behind that attempt, I believe, is your son, Yi Feiling. And how can you be sure those were really from the Xiong clan?" Yi Shilong questioned. "What if it was a setup to frame my son?" "I think you still don't understand the situation," Su Zimo chuckled lightly. "I'm not here to debate. I'm just informing you. I came to kill your son. That's all. This doesn't concern anyone else. Of course, if anyone tries to stop me, I won't mind slaughtering this entire city." Yi Shilong was silent again for a moment before finally saying, "May I ask for a bit of time to investigate? If what you said is true, I will not make excuses. I'll bring him to you bound." "You have half an hour," Su Zimo said with eyes half closed. "If I don't see him by then, I'll wipe out the entire Yi clan." With all members of the Yi clan returning to their estate, Chaos, the enormous beast, stood silently at the city gate, making no further move. Its massive body towered far higher than the city walls. When it looked down upon the city, many spectators who had gathered to watch quickly fled in terror. In the northern part of the city, the bun shop owner pulled freshly steamed buns out of the basket, and their aroma filled the nearby streets. He gazed at Chaos's immense figure and sighed quietly, muttering to himself, "There's truly no peaceful paradise left in this world." At a quiet tea stand in a back alley, an old man glanced nonchalantly toward Chaos, then lowered his head again and flipped through his tea manual as if nothing else mattered. Even with a mountain collapsing before him, his expression did not change. To him, the tea manual in his hands was more important than the world outside. Inside the Yi clan's main hall, chaos had broken out. "Feiling, tell me the truth. Was it you?" Yi Shilong asked, frowning. "Father, I don't know anything." Yi Feiling quickly shook his head in denial. "Still lying?" Yi Shilong said coldly. "Don't think I don't know. Your mother secretly arranged for a few assassins trained by the Xiong clan to protect you. Now tell me, where are they?" Hearing this, and realizing there was no hiding it anymore, Yi Feiling quickly dropped to his knees, panicked. "Father, I didn't expect things to go this far. A few days ago, that man had a conflict with second brother at Moon Queen Pavilion, and I couldn't stand it. I just wanted to avenge him, so I ordered the hit." At his son's confession, Yi Shilong's expression finally softened a little. "Patriarch, right now the priority is how to deal with this man," the Grand Elder spoke from the side. "And how do we deal with it?" Yi Shilong frowned, clearly troubled. "I couldn't even sense that man's cultivation level, that's one thing. But his beast companion, it's definitely God Meridian Realm. Who in the Yi clan could possibly stop that? Even calling our ancestor wouldn't help." The Yi clan's ancestor was one of the first to help establish Primordial Ancient City, but even he had only reached the God Meridian Realm. And as everyone knew, in equal realms, beasts overwhelmingly outclass humans. The only downside was that their cultivation progress was much slower. "Are we really going to tie up Feiling and hand him over?" the Grand Elder asked bluntly. "Father, I don't want to die. Please save me." Yi Feiling sobbed as he knelt on the ground. Yi Shilong looked torn, between an enemy too powerful to resist and the son he'd placed so much hope in. Indiana. He slowly closed his eyes. Deep down, he already knew. The Yi clan had no other choice. It was either surrender his son or face annihilation. He parted his lips, preparing to give the painful order, when suddenly a servant rushed in. "Patriarch, 5 people outside say they want to see you." Hearing this, Yi Shilong frowned. But before he could respond, a hearty laugh echoed from outside. "Patriarch Yi, how have you been?" Everyone in the hall turned to the doorway where 5 figures entered. 3 men and 2 women, all wearing similar beast-patterned robes. Only the colors were different: black, white, yellow, blue, and green. Each of them carried an intense beast-like aura, like walking humanoid monsters. The 5 ancestors of the stone tablet? What are you doing here? Yi Shilong asked, frowning. These 5 were all at the peak of the Empyrean Meridian realm. Rumor had it they had inherited the power of primordial beast lords. Despite being human, they had cultivated beast race techniques. Even more fearsome, beast race techniques were inherently compatible with each other, allowing the 5 of them to jointly rival a God Meridian realm expert, at least for a time. However, the 5 were notorious for their evil deeds. After offending a powerful faction, they had taken refuge in Primordial Ancient City. Their whereabouts were kept secret. Aside from the city's high-ranking clans, few even knew they were here. I imagine Patriarchy must be facing some trouble, said one of them, a man in a white robe dressed like a scholar. Not many knew their real names, so people simply referred to them by the color of their robes. Black Tablet Ancestor, White Tablet Ancestor, Yellow Tablet Ancestor, Blue Tablet Ancestor, Green Tablet Ancestor. What? You're here to help? Yi Shilong sneered, clearly displeased by their uninvited entrance. That's exactly our intention, White Tablet Ancestor replied with a smile. Oh please, Yi Shilong scoffed. I'll admit the 5 of you are powerful peak Empyrean Meridian experts. But the beast outside is God Meridian realm. What do you plan to use against it? 5 Empyrean Meridians aren't enough, said Black Tablet Ancestor calmly. But what if there were 5 God Meridian realm cultivators? Hearing this, Yi Shilong frowned deeply. He examined the 5 but couldn't sense anything unusual from their auras. What do you mean by that? He asked in confusion. Chapter 197 One Leaf Ancient God. Patriarch Yi, there's no need to doubt us, White Tablet Ancestor said with a smile. The 5 of us once obtained a formation. Within that formation, our peak Empyrean Meridian realm strength can temporarily be boosted to the God Meridian realm for half an hour. After years of effort, we've finally gathered all the core materials needed to activate it. What's the price? Yi Shilong narrowed his eyes and asked calmly. He didn't believe for a second that the 5 would help out of pure goodwill. After all, no one hands out favors for free. Once we subdue that Meridian beast, it belongs to us, said White Tablet Ancestor. No problem, Yi Shilong nodded. And we might need your Yi clan's ancestor to emerge. With 6 God Meridian realm powerhouses, our chances are better, White Tablet Ancestor added. After all, we're only pseudo-God Meridian. That's impossible, Yi Shilong refused without hesitation. Their clan's ancestor was currently sealed within the Dust Bloodstone. Each time he emerged would cost him a significant portion of his lifespan. To put it bluntly, the ancestor was the foundation of the Yi clan. To risk him just to save Yi failing? Even if Yi Shilong agreed, the clan elders never would. If you allow your ancestor to emerge, once we subdue the Meridian beast, we'll let your Yi clan keep it. The 5 ancestors of the stone tablet conferred briefly before White Tablet Ancestor offered the proposal. But we have one condition. Everyone inside the Yi clan's main hall looked visibly excited. If they could gain a God Meridian realm beast just like that, the Yi clan's power would skyrocket. What condition? Yi Shilong asked, suppressing his excitement. We want half of the beast's essence blood, White Tablet replied. But rest assured, even though the beast will be weakened for a while, with enough spirit medicine, it will recover in time. Yi Shilong narrowed his eyes in thought, studying the 5. He already had his answer. Clearly, the reason they were helping was to get the beast's blood. Or more likely, their cultivation, being based on beast race techniques, depended on it to advance into the true God Meridian realm. Each side would get what they wanted. They'd save Yi failing and gain a God Meridian beast, while the 5 ancestors would get the precious blood they needed. Deal! Yi Shilong slammed the table. His Empyrean Meridian realm aura burst out as he stared into the distance. The Yi clan is not so easily bullied. Time's almost up, Su Zimo murmured as he opened his eyes, gazing toward the Yi clan's compound. Chaos let out a deafening roar and slammed its massive claw against the city wall. Boundless spirit force echoed through the air. Boom! The towering ancient wall trembled as rubble and bricks began falling from above. Let's not be hasty. Yi Shilong appeared, stepping through the air, his body surrounded by surging energy. He smiled lightly. Looks like you're going back on your word. Su Zimo smiled coldly. Don't you think you're being a bit too tyrannical? Yi Shilong said calmly. You want to execute my son without evidence. Where does that leave the Yi clan's dignity? I can't agree to this. But if you walk away now, I'll pretend none of this happened. Su Zimo let out a light laugh and shook his head. Just don't regret it. In that moment, all 5 of Su Zimo's meridian gates opened, and at the same time, Chaos's 8 meridian gates lit up as well. A powerful resonance surged between the 2 of them as spirit force flooded the void. Su Zimo's figure slowly began to disappear into thin air. In that instant, Chaos leapt, soaring directly into Primordial Ancient City. Its claws slashed through layers of space, slicing with razor-sharp momentum directly toward Yi Shilong. Yi Shilong's expression shifted. He shouted to the surroundings, "Are you ready?" Almost came the reply from the 4 corners of the city, where the 4 tablet ancestors stood at the key points of a formation. White tablet ancestor stood in the very center of Primordial Ancient City. 5 beams of light shot into the sky, painting the heavens in 5 radiant colors. Yi Shilong quickly retreated. This battle was too dangerous. He had not involved any other members of the Yi clan. In the face of such overwhelming power, anyone else would be cannon fodder. Chaos let out a cold snort. As Yi Shilong darted through the air trying to escape, Chaos's vast beastly aura burst forth, freezing space in place. Its massive claw swept forward, imbued with unstoppable force, aimed directly at Yi Shilong. At that moment, the 5 beams of light in the sky grew stronger. A crushing pressure descended from above, enveloping the 5 tablet ancestors. Just as Chaos's claw was about to land, a blinding ray of light shot from the distance and slammed into it, causing a slight delay in the strike. It was just enough for Yi Shilong to narrowly escape with his life. Chaos turned its head slightly and saw an elderly man walking through the air from the far horizon. All 8 meridian gates around him glowed. Above his head, his true fate manifested. His green robe stirred with the winds. His true fate was a leaf, deep purple in color, etched with countless runes. As the leaf descended from the void, it emitted endless violet light. At the same time, the 5 beams of light surrounding the city reached their climax, twisting the sky into a vortex of clouds and storms. The combined pressure of 5 god meridian auras surged from the tablet ancestors. People hiding within the city peeked out at the scene, eyes wide in awe. 6 god meridian realm cultivators, and a god meridian realm meridian beast. Are they trying to tear a hole in the sky? Since when did Primordial Ancient City have this kind of power? I've never heard of this before. See that old man? That's the Yi clan's ancestor. One Leaf Ancient God. One Leaf Ancient God? Isn't he one of the original founders who rebuilt Primordial Ancient City? Someone said, stunned. Things are getting lively, Su Zimo said with a smile, gazing at the scene. Then let's have a good fight. Behind Chaos, its 2 pairs of blood-red wings spread wide, blocking out the sun. It let out a furious roar and charged straight toward the old man. The blood-red wings sliced through the silent void, and a mighty claw slammed down upon the purple leaf of the true fate. Boom! A shockwave exploded outward like a mushroom cloud in the sky. One Leaf Ancient God was sent flying backwards. Chapter 198, Ancient Void Tree. As the figure was blasted backward through the air, One Leaf Ancient God managed to stabilize himself. The purple leaf above his head wrapped around him and brought him to a halt. Peak of the God Meridian Realm, One Leaf Ancient God said grimly. He immediately realized how serious the situation was. If the opponent were only newly into the God Meridian Realm, then with his own peak strength and the aid of 5 pseudo-God Meridian allies, they still stood a decent chance. But now the situation was turning dire. The purple leaf above his head began to emit a brilliant violet light. Within that glow, a gigantic tree began to sprout and grow. The purple tree grew taller and more radiant. Explosions echoed all around as nearby space began to shatter in localized areas. Once it reached a certain height, the tree split into countless branches that all surged toward chaos, aiming to strangle and tear it apart. The ancient void tree, Suzumo chuckled. You're lucky to have a leaf from the ancient void tree as your true fate. As the countless branches lashed toward him, some tangible, some hidden in the void, each crackled with overwhelming energy, tearing open rifts in space. Chaos let out a deafening roar and slammed a massive claw down, obliterating the entire wave of branches beneath it. If you had fused with the entire ancient void tree, then maybe you could fight me, Chaos declared. But just one leaf? You're not qualified. With that, Chaos stood upright. The two pairs of blood-red wings behind it slowly folded together. At the center of its slightly round belly, a vortex appeared. This vortex glowed with red-purple light. Thunder crackled within, resembling the wrath of an impending apocalypse. This was Chaos's innate divine ability, primordial atavism. It didn't just devour everything, it could trace all things back to their source. Within the vortex, a red-purple beam of light burst forth, condensing boundless energy. The beam slammed into the ancient void tree, which immediately began to tremble and crackle violently. Within seconds, it reverted back to the single purple leaf. But the leaf was no longer glowing with the same brilliance. It had begun to wither. One leaf ancient god could no longer hold it in. He coughed up a mouthful of blood, his face going pale. At the same time, the 5 ancestors of the stone tablet launched their combined attack on Chaos. 5 radiant beams of energy cloaked the 5 figures. As they struck Chaos with the combined might of their pseudo-god meridian power, a muffled grunt came from the beast. Insects, Chaos growled and roared to the sky. Its twin claws smashed downward, locking space in place and summoning a flood of spiritual energy. The 5 ancestors didn't even have time to react. They were swatted away like flies. Be careful. It's at peak God Meridian realm, One Leaf ancient god warned. Beasts were already stronger than humans at the same level, and Chaos was at the peak of the God Meridian realm, just a step away from the path of immortality. They stood little chance of winning. Half of primordial ancient city had already been caught in the chaos. Countless buildings had collapsed. People fled like ants, screaming in terror. Cracks split across the ground, and cries of pain and despair echoed through the city. At a street corner bun stall, the middle-aged vendor watched the chaos and shook his head. I feel sorry for you all. You'll never taste my buns again, he muttered. With that, he packed up his stall, pushed his cart, and calmly left primordial ancient city. The buildings collapsing on both sides of the street seemed to avoid him, falling only around him, never upon him. As the man's silhouette disappeared in the distance, the street was left with the lingering aroma of freshly steamed buns. One Leaf ancient god stared at Chaos with a solemn expression. His god meridian aura still surged like a vast sea, but he lowered his head in contemplation. His true fate, the purple leaf, had been damaged and would now need long-term nurturing to recover. He could no longer casually use its power. What now? Asked Yi Shilong anxiously, watching Chaos's enormous form slowly approach the Yi family compound. The earlier battle had been too intense. He hadn't dared to intervene, merely watching from afar. Stall him for a bit. We 5 have one last trump card, White Tablet Ancestor replied. If that doesn't work, we each run for our lives. What are you saying? Yi Shilong's face twisted. You were the ones who talked me into this fight, and now you're planning to run, leaving the Yi clan to deal with the consequences? Calm down, Patriarch Yi, White Tablet Ancestor said quickly. We didn't know it was at peak God Meridian. We thought it was just an ordinary God Meridian beast. I suggest everyone stay put and figure out a plan, One Leaf ancient god said coolly. The formation you set up only works inside primordial ancient city. Once you leave its boundaries, you'll lose its boost and revert to Empyrean Meridian realm. And with me here, do you really think you'll get away? If the Yi clan falls, then you'll all die with us. The words stunned everyone. The 5 ancestors looked grim. Finally, they gave in. Then let's give it one more try, they agreed reluctantly. By now, primordial ancient city had descended into total chaos. Many people had already fled, and corpses littered the streets. Yi Shilong floated in midair, spirit force amplifying his voice across the entire city. Fellow citizens, primordial ancient city now faces life and death. Hiding won't save us. We must stand together. Only by slaying this beast can we restore peace. This beast was brought here by your Yi clan. Why should we suffer for it? Someone shouted angrily from below. Arguing about that is meaningless now, Yi Shilong called out. I promise you, anyone who fights will be rewarded with 1,000 spirit crystals, a star-tier meridian technique, and 3 days access to our Yi clan's hidden realm. The crowd erupted. Especially among wandering cultivators, excitement surged. Looks like the Yi clan's going all out this time. Members of other clans whispered among themselves. Should we join? We don't care about the spirit crystals or meridian technique. But that hidden realm, I've had my eye on that for a while. Let's send some elders. It wasn't just the unaffiliated cultivators now. Many clans began rallying toward Yi Shilong's position. Hovering above in the void, Su Zimo watched and chuckled. So now they're dragging the entire city into this mess. Chaos took one massive step forward, spirit force surging like a tide. It had finally arrived at the Yi clan's estate. Chapter 199. Do you know who ruled the beasts? Chaos looked down at the Yi clan compound, the people below appearing no larger than ants in its eyes. One leaf ancient god stood in Chaos's way, speaking solemnly. Mighty One, may we talk? Chaos let out a deafening roar, ignoring him completely. This massive claws slammed down toward the Yi clan estate. Boom! Half of the compound was reduced to rubble. Where is Yi failing? Chaos's thunderous voice echoed through the air, making the entire space tremble. When no one answered, Chaos's aura surged once again, and it raised its claws to strike a second time. Wait, please don't strike. At that moment, the Yi clan's Grand Elder appeared, leading a group of people who dragged Yi failing out. In front of the ruins, the Grand Elder and all present fell to their knees, respectfully pleading. Great One, I have brought this disgraceful child before you. Do with him as you wish. Please, spare the Yi clan. Yi failing was completely suppressed. He couldn't even speak. His expression was panicked. His eyes filled with terror as he stared up at the massive chaos in the sky. One leaf ancient god sighed at the scene but didn't intervene. Deep down, he too hoped to resolve this battle quickly. He glanced toward the horizon. By Yi Shilong's side, more and more cultivators were gathering. But one leaf ancient god had little hope. They weren't in the same league. Most of these people would never truly understand what it meant to stand before a god meridian powerhouse. Chaos slowly extended a giant claw, gently pinching Yi failing like one might grab an ant, lifting him up before its eyes. It didn't dare squeeze too hard, fearing it might accidentally crush him to a pulp. Ripples spread through the void, and Su Zimo's figure appeared. Having fun? He asked with a smile, staring at Yi failing. The terrified Yi failing could only shake his head frantically, trying to beg for mercy, but no words came. Su Zimo smiled, glancing into the distance, where Yi Shilong led a wave of cultivators charging forward like a thunderous army, their momentum filling the sky with a killing aura. Looks like I'll be slaughtering a lot today, Su Zimo murmured as his spirit force surged and he once again vanished into the void. Chaos, keeping Yi failing imprisoned, casually tossed him aside and turned toward the charging army. It let out a bone-shaking roar, drowning out all other noise. As its towering body moved forward, one step shook the ground like an earthquake. When its foot came down like a falling sky, dozens of cultivators were crushed instantly. One punch swept out, and a powerful shockwave exploded in midair. Over a dozen more were blasted apart. Their attacks landed on Chaos like tickles, completely ineffective. How are we supposed to fight that? Panic spread as people saw chaos tearing through them like paper. Maybe we should just run. The rewards are great, but not if you die first. The crowd began murmuring nervously. Just stall it, Yi Shilong shouted from the rear. Once we're ready, you can retreat. My promise still stands. At the very back of the formation, the 5 ancestors of the stone tablet sat cross-legged in midair, exuding powerful beast auras. Endless spirit force gathered around them, and a massive celestial projection began to take form. Yi Shilong stood guard, protecting their ritual. Upon hearing Yi Shilong's promise, the crowd gritted their teeth and pushed forward once again. Master, I sense a familiar aura within that celestial projection, Chaos said quietly, staring at the phantom forming around the stone tablet ancestors. In his past life, the 5 ancestors of the stone tablet had been quite infamous. Not only were all 5 peak Empyrean Meridian experts, but they had once made headlines due to a single major event. They had offended an imperial sect and were relentlessly hunted down for it. Who would have thought they'd go into hiding in primordial ancient city?
Familiar?
Then let's go take a look, Su Zimo said calmly. Chaos's colossal form advanced step by step, casually swatting away any who tried to stop it. Its gaze locked on the massive phantom taking shape. Suddenly, a deafening screech erupted from the projection, and a boundless beast aura surged out, as if a primordial beast had awakened. Rumor has it the 5 ancestors cultivated beast race techniques, Su Zimo said. Maybe you even know them. As the mist faded, the form of the phantom became clearer. It was a giant bird with a large gray-blue body and dark red wings trailing behind. Its head resembled that of a deer, with a long, sharp horn jutting from its forehead. Torrents of energy swirled around its horn, and its muscular legs tensed with power. When it let out a shriek, the beast aura swept across the sky, and gray spirit force shrouded everything. This is the primordial demon beast we inherited, White Tablet Ancestor said proudly. Even in the desolate era, it was a terrifying existence. Chaos chuckled and shook its head. So it's that little one. You know it? Su Zimo asked curiously. An annihilation bird. It used to be one of the subordinate races under my rule, Chaos replied. As the annihilation bird appeared, Chaos roared skyward, spreading its blood-red wings and soaring into the sky. An even more terrifying beast aura erupted from Chaos, sweeping across the region for hundreds of miles. All beasts within that radius collapsed in fear, trembling on the ground. Even the annihilation bird began to shake, afraid to attack Chaos. Though it lacked sentience, beast bloodline suppression ran deep. It was the primal fear one beast had for its superior. The stone tablet ancestors felt the fear from the beast and were immediately shocked. When they had first inherited the annihilation bird's legacy, they even replaced their own bloodlines with that of the beast just to cultivate beast arts. How is this possible? Green Tablet Ancestor whispered in disbelief. Little ones, do you know who ruled this lower realm's beast race in the desolate era? Chaos sneered. The 10 god beasts ruled them all. I was one of the 10. That annihilation bird you inherited? Even if it were still alive, it would have just been one of my war generals. As Chaos finished speaking, it raised a massive claw and brought it down. The annihilation bird didn't even try to resist. It was completely obliterated, scattered to ash in an instant. Chapter 200, I am just a T-seller. Seeing the scene unfold, the 5 ancestors of the stone tablet turned pale. Only now did they realize they had provoked a true ancestor of the beast race. Without hesitation, the 5 scattered in different directions to escape. But Chaos had already locked down the entire region. With the space itself suppressed, it became nearly impossible for any cultivator to break through. Under this pressure, everyone's movements felt painfully slow. Primordial Ancient City fell into total chaos. Those who had previously rallied to fight Chaos now panicked like ants on a hot pan, desperately fleeing in every direction. Many were even trampled to death in the surging crowd. Chaos showed no mercy. It continued its massacre of fleeing cultivators. Its colossal body moved with unstoppable force, slaughtering indiscriminately. Blood rained from the sky, flesh flew in all directions, and bones were ground to dust. An overwhelming beastly aura blanketed the land. The one-sided war raged on. On a remote street, by a small tea stall, an old man quietly read from his tea manual. A thin wisp of steam rose from the cup in front of him. The soothing fragrance of tea filled the air. Even with countless people dying nearby, the skies raining blood, and endless screams filling the air, he didn't so much as frown. Beside him, a little girl's face was pale with fear. "Grandpa, we should leave too," she said nervously. "It's okay, little Chi." The old man smiled gently. "Are you scared?" "I'm not scared." The girl quickly shook her head, her chubby cheeks tense with worry. Then she threw herself into the old man's arms and burst into tears. "I'm just scared that the monster will kill you too. I don't want to lose you, Grandpa." The old man gently patted her back and smiled kindly. "Don't be afraid. Just sleep for a bit, and when you wake up, everything will be over." He watched as the girl fell asleep in his arms. Carefully, he laid her on a reclining chair and stood up slowly. His white hair fluttered gently in the wind. He gazed calmly at the apocalyptic scene unfolding across the city. A cultivator had just fallen from the sky, crashing into a small cart beside the tea stall, shattering it completely. Bloodied and broken, the cultivator lay at the old man's feet, desperately pleading, "Help! Help me!" The old man glanced at him coldly, then stepped over the dying man without a word, walking calmly toward chaos. A cold wind howled through the air, the winter chill sweeping across the battlefield. Flakes of snow began to fall from the sky, dancing and spinning in the frigid wind. The snowfall grew heavier, until the entire sky was filled with a blizzard of white. "Enough!" A soft sigh echoed across primordial ancient city. The voice was quiet, barely more than a whisper. But somehow, everyone in the city heard it. Even Su Zimo was no exception. Chaos paused, frowning and scanning the surroundings. Then a figure emerged, walking through the air from the distant horizon. It was an elderly man, dressed in a simple, coarse blue robe. His face was deeply lined with wrinkles, each one telling the story of a long, weary life. "Who are you?" Chaos asked warily. Despite the man's plain appearance, Chaos couldn't sense his cultivation. He seemed ordinary, and yet, a tremendous pressure loomed over Chaos's heart. "That's not important," the old man replied flatly. "You've made enough noise. It's time to leave. Let this city have its peace." Ripples spread in the air as Su Zimo's figure materialized nearby. "The show's over," the old man said calmly. "And what does that have to do with you?" Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. "If you refuse to leave," the old man said softly, "then you'll stay here permanently." "You?" Chaos snorted and slammed a claw toward the old man. But the old man simply raised a hand, gathering a faint blue light at his fingertips. With a gentle flick, the blue glow burst forth. Spirit force surged in the sky, and with a thunderous boom, Chaos's massive body was sent flying and crashed to the ground. Everyone fleeing stopped dead in their tracks. Who is that?" Someone gasped in disbelief. One Leaf ancient god stood still, staring at the old man, deep in thought. Chaos rose slowly, glaring at the elder, roaring furiously, but not daring to strike again. That last blow had made it abundantly clear. This old man was no ordinary person. "I'm just a failure," the old man said quietly. "The fate of this city means nothing to me. But now, I just want to live in peace." As he finished speaking, a terrifying aura erupted from his body. His robe fluttered violently in the wind. Snowflakes danced around him, blending with the momentum of his aura. A blood-colored river descended from the heavens like a galaxy in reverse. It was his true fate. The entire world began to collapse under its weight. Reality itself struggled to contain the force, continuously breaking and healing in an endless cycle. Divine celestial energy flooded the sky, and when the old man opened his eyes, the world seemed to revolve around him. When he opened his eyes, it was day. When he closed them, it was night. Chaos's face turned pale. An immortal. He's reached the arcane immortal realm. He's opened the 9th meridian gate. He stepped onto the path of immortality. Who are you? Suzimo asked, frowning. A name is just a label, the old man replied. His voice echoed across the heavens. The blood river in the sky churned violently, filled with the sins of the world. The world prefers to call me Mad Blood. At this name, one leaf ancient god visibly paled. He looked at the sky in horror and shouted, "You're Mad Blood the demon, the butcher who destroyed thousands of cities, whose massacres left the land soaked in blood. So someone still remembers me." The old man chuckled. Then he shook his head. "Relax. I'm just a tea seller now." People nearby turned pale at the name. Some trembled uncontrollably. Others, unfamiliar, asked, "Who's Mad Blood?" "You don't know?" Someone whispered back in shock. "A demon who kills without blinking. The stuff of nightmares."